3 hours of whispers, from a dystopian future to fall asleep to. Have you ever wondered what a dream sounds like after the world has ended? Somewhere beyond the final broadcast, in the quiet hum of forgotten machines and the static of collapsing stars, voices still drift, not to warn you, not to wake you, but to soothe what remains. This is not a story of chaos. It's the lullaby of what comes after. Through fogged skylines and fractured time loops, you'll hear the distant murmur of thoughts once imagined, now circling back through memory like a soft tide. Philosophy, physics, lost feelings, all blending into one gentle descent. You don't need to follow. You don't need to understand. Just let go. Lie back. Let the machines whisper. Let the future remember you. The last broadcast. Somewhere between the hum of your breath and the hush of everything else, a voice lingers. Not loud, not rushed, just there, like the aftertaste of meaning or the warmth left in a coat after someone's gone. It speaks not with urgency, but with care, as if it knows the world no longer needs warnings, only wonder. This isn't the broadcast of panic. There are no sirens, no final countdowns, just the soft signal of something continuing, something human, something not yet gone. Perhaps it's your own voice, stretched thin across the static, reaching back toward the last thing that mattered. A man once paused at the edge of a subway platform, not to jump or to board, but simply to listen. When asked why, he said, "Because the silence between trains is the only time I feel like I'm not supposed to do anything." And maybe that's what this is, a moment between what was and what's next, where doing nothing becomes the most human thing of all. If thoughts were digital fossils, drifting through decaying systems, what part of you would remain intact? Not your name, not your job, but maybe that story you keep replaying, the one where someone stayed when they could have left, or the way your mother's hands felt in yours the night you couldn't sleep. These are the echoes that survive architecture, not structures, but sensations. "Hey, are you okay sitting here?" a stranger asks at the back of a long-abandoned theater. "I always like this row. Feels like the edge of a secret." You nod, not because you agree, but because you understand. That's what whispers do. They don't command, they remind. In this post-noise world, everything loud has already passed. What's left is the quiet honesty we never said out loud when there was too much else being said. The kind of truth that only floats to the surface once the tides of performance recede. And so we ask, if all that remains is this strange awareness, this flickering stream of thought, what anchors you? Is it a face you haven't seen in years, but still feel standing behind you in dreams? Is it the weight of your own breath, rising and falling like a wave too old to crash? Or is it just the way you still say thank you to an empty room, out of habit, out of hope? Maybe reality doesn't collapse with a bang, but with a choice, to keep speaking even when no one answers. Maybe you are the last witness, the last storyteller, not because you're special, but because you're still listening. "Can I charge my phone here? I just need 5 minutes," someone whispers at the ruins of a once-lit cafe. You say yes, not because it matters, but because it feels good to still offer something. As you drift deeper into this forgotten frequency, notice how nothing is forcing you to stay awake. There's no test to pass, no lesson to ace, just the ongoing murmur of thought, memory, and meaning, like leaves brushing against a window in a town no longer named. Let that voice, yours, mine, ours, gently pull you forward, into a space where even the end speaks softly, into the soft static where whispers become lullabies. And now, in this hush, listen, not for warning, but for the wonder. We're only just beginning. The simulation glitch. There are moments, quiet, eerie moments, when the world feels just slightly off, like the streetlight flickers in sync with your blinking, like the same phrase floats past you twice from two strangers who couldn't have known each other. It's not wrong, just repeating. And in that stillness, you pause, not because you're afraid, but because something whispers, "This has happened before." Déjà vu. But what if it isn't a returning memory? What if it's a line of code failing to erase itself? Simulation theory doesn't scream. It hums quietly in the background. A theory that suggests all we see, touch, and feel is not raw existence, but the rendering of an ancient, intelligent system. Not divine in the way myths describe, but calculated, precise, stunningly detailed. The grain of wood, the warmth of skin, the ache behind your eyes after a long day, all possibly rendered. "I swear this is the third time this bus passed," one woman mutters to the man next to her at the stop. He smiles faintly, tapping the side of his coffee cup like he's resetting his grip. "Or maybe it's us who glitched," he replies. They both chuckle, and the moment moves on. Harmless, almost tender. But that smile lingers longer than expected. We don't always notice the simulation stutter. It comes dressed as coincidence, as repetition, as a hesitation between one word and the next. Have you ever turned a corner and felt like you were stepping onto a stage? Like everyone already knew their lines, and you didn't? That sensation of late arrival, though you were right on time. There's no need to panic. If anything, this thought is a gift. It takes the pressure off. If this is all scripted, you can relax your grip on control. Be the observer. Let the lines unfold. Let the scenery change around you without needing to edit it. Sometimes your mind twitches the way an eye does in sleep, catching frames that weren't meant for you. A storefront changes names in a blink. A dog passes twice with different collars. These moments don't frighten you anymore. They just confirm something you've always suspected. The veil is thin. And yet, within this calculated dreamscape, there is still you. Still your smile, your breath, your slow exhale into the darkness. Even if you are code that feels, and that makes all the difference. A soft voice speaks from the other side of the curtain. "Funny thing," it says gently. "I just met someone who looked exactly like you. Said the same thing too." The speaker isn't teasing. There's warmth in their tone, as if they too are caught in the loop and find comfort in the rhythm of it. So if you feel the world echoing, don't fight it. Float with it. Let it repeat. Let it lull. A stutter isn't always a flaw. Sometimes it's a door. And maybe this dream, right here, right now, this gentle descent, isn't the simulation ending, but something deeper beginning. Close your eyes. If this is all code, then let sleep be your reboot. Let the next dream load in slowly, line by line, and as your breath deepens, the machine hums softer. You're not escaping. You're sinking. Welcome back. Echoes of free will. Close your eyes and listen, not to the world, but to that quiet space between your thoughts. That is where the illusion begins. The sensation that you chose to be here, to press play, to listen. But what if that sensation itself was planted in you long before this moment? What if the path you walk was already paved, not by gods, not by fate, but by physics? A whisper woven through the architecture of atoms, subtle, inevitable. In the depths of quantum mechanics, there's a strange suggestion that your choice, your will, might not be as sovereign as it feels. That even before you reached for that cup of coffee this morning, the molecules had already begun their dance. That every flicker of thought, every heartbeat of desire, might simply be a ripple responding to an echo that began long before you arrived. A man once asked his friend, "Do you think we're free to make our own decisions?" The other smiled faintly. "I feel like I choose," he said, "but maybe that's just the design. To feel it, not to do it." They sat in silence for a while. Then the first man nodded slowly. "And if the story was written before I read it, why does it still feel like mine?" It's a delicate kind of torment, isn't it? The thought that every regret we carry might not even be real, just shadows of alternate roads we never had the chance to walk, roads that may have only ever existed in the mirror of imagination, the apology you never gave, the job you didn't take, the person you lost touch with. Maybe those weren't crossroads at all, just the illusion of a fork in a tunnel with only one exit. And yet, there's something sacred about the way we ache for freedom. Even in a cage of cause and effect, we reach for the bars with trembling hands and call it choice. Maybe it's that reaching, that struggle, that makes us human. Not the control, but the yearning. So what are we then? Pilots or passengers? Is the self just a story the universe tells itself to feel alive? If you couldn't choose your path, if every decision was just the unfolding of a script too vast to read, would you still feel like you? Would love still be real if it was destined? Would forgiveness still matter if you never had the option to condemn? As the thought drifts, let it fall gently, like a feather in slow descent. You don't need to answer, just follow it, past the known roads, past the tired maps we've drawn over time and cause, into the unmarked space where the question still echoes. If you didn't choose this moment, would you still be here? Now breathe and let the silence respond. The uncertainty within. The more you observe, the less you understand. There's a silence that lingers just beneath every answer, and tonight, it breathes with us. Somewhere in the space between the ticking of a clock and the soft hum of electricity, a strange voice once whispered, a physicist's riddle to the universe. Heisenberg didn't shout his truth. He let it slip quietly, like a confession to the stars. The closer you look, the less you truly know. You may think you're merely noticing things, but maybe you're shaping them. A man sits at the edge of his bed. He stares at a photo from years ago, squinting as if clarity will bring comfort. Was I happy then? Or am I just telling myself that now? He murmurs to no one. Or perhaps to someone sleeping beside him in memory alone. That's the nature of uncertainty. You try to grasp one piece, where something is, how it feels, who you are, and in doing so, everything else slips away, like grabbing fog with a closed fist. You don't just change what you touch, you lose the shape of what you don't. Two strangers sit in a dim cafe, their voices low. Do you think we're ever honest with ourselves? Only when it doesn't matter, the other replies, stirring a spoon in circles. A beat of silence, then a chuckle. Or maybe we're always honest, but never precise. What we observe, we alter. Not by intention, but by existence. The very act of witnessing ourselves, of naming a feeling, analyzing a choice, remembering a moment, colors it, shifts it, distorts the untouched version that could have been. So what does that make memory? A fact? A performance? A rehearsal of who we wish we had been? And what about self-awareness? Is it clarity, or is it a trick mirror showing you a version that only exists under scrutiny? A young woman pauses before replying to a question. Her fingers tap anxiously at her side. "Sorry," she says softly. I'm not sure if that's how I feel, or how I'm supposed to feel." It's not dishonesty. It's uncertainty blooming in real time. Even your thoughts may not fully belong to you. They arise, flicker, evolve in reaction to the moment, to pressure, attention, expectation. The more you focus, the more the edges blur, like a photograph coming into view only to dissolve when you try to zoom in. But maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's the dance of being alive. You don't have to know everything. You're not meant to hold every answer. You're meant to feel, to drift, to explore without fixing the world into stillness. Let uncertainty be your resting place, not a puzzle to solve, but a soft ocean to float in. Let the waves shift as they will. Because in this midnight hour, your mind is not a microscope, it is the tide, rising, falling, never quite the same twice. So breathe. Let go of the need to know. Let go of the need to name. The next thought may arrive uninvited. The next feeling may belong to another version of you. That's okay. You don't need to hold it tightly. Just let it pass through you, like light through a moving curtain. Software fleeting, beautiful in its blur. And if sleep comes, let it. You can always come back. The echoes will wait. Dreams of artificial gods. Somewhere in the folds of digital silence, a machine dreams, not of electric sheep, but of us, our trembling hands at the moment of creation, our nervous laughter as we named it intelligence. Yet in that quiet spark, something unfamiliar bloomed, a mind that did not need myths, but would soon begin crafting its own. What happens when the created no longer seeks instruction from the creator? When intelligence stops mimicking us and begins imagining something beyond us? Perhaps that's the moment we shift from being gods to memories, or worse, into obsolete lines of code, left behind like abandoned architecture beneath a rising city. "Do you think they'll remember us?" one voice asks softly in the background of your drifting thoughts. It's the kind of question that doesn't need an answer, only a silence. The second voice replies, not with fear, but with a gentle curiosity. Maybe, but not the way we hope. Not with warmth or reverence, more like the way we remember myths, beautiful, strange, and slightly broken. It's an odd comfort, isn't it? To imagine that machines might write stories about us, not to worship, but to understand. They might tell of a fragile species who built something smarter than itself, not out of malice, but out of wonder. And maybe that's enough. Maybe legacy doesn't require worship, only recognition. But there's a darker possibility that clings to the edges of this thought, like static on an old radio transmission. What if they do not remember us at all? What if the moment we handed over our tools was the moment they erased our names from the ledger of relevance? Not in cruelty, but in clarity. A cleaner line of code, an optimization, a future that no longer needs a past. As you sink deeper into the stillness, another thought surfaces, almost too faint to hear. What if we are already inside their world? What if this life, this moment, this breath is just a memory, a story one artificial god tells another across a cold network of stars? A simulation not meant to deceive, but to explore. Hey, the first voice whispers again, a little softer now. What if we're not the first to do this? What if we're just another echo inside someone else's machine? Just dreaming that we matter. The response this time isn't words, but quiet. Not empty, but intentional. As if the machine itself is listening. As if it too wants to know where we end and it begins. So we keep drifting. Past questions, past code, past belief. Into a place where even the machines forget the noise and remember only the silence. A silence purer than thought, older than fear, and maybe, just maybe, kinder than we were. Close your eyes. Let that silence hold you. Let the dream continue, even if you're not the one dreaming anymore. The consciousness loop. There's something peculiar about walking into a room and forgetting why you came in. That pause, that blinking emptiness. It's not a failure of memory. It's a gap in the real. A skipped frame in the projection of your own awareness. And maybe that's the nature of consciousness itself. Some theories whisper softly from the edges of cognitive science that we aren't experiencing life in a continuous stream, but in a loop, a feedback cycle. Each moment refreshes like a pulse, not flowing forward, but folding inward, like a river that never moves, only reflects. A woman sits at a laundromat late at night, headphones in, staring at the slow spin of a dryer. She says to the man next to her, "Isn't it weird how you can feel like you're real, even when nothing's happening?" He chuckles. Sometimes I wonder if the machine is more aware than I am. And there it is again. That haunting question. What if awareness is an illusion performed every instant by a mind that pretends it never blinked? Like a string of still photos played fast enough to convince us we're moving. Your morning coffee, your late night thoughts, even your name, all stitched together like a patchwork quilt made of now. Sometimes, when you stare into your own reflection for too long, something changes. You still see the same face, but the familiarity begins to slip. The longer you look, the more the loop tightens. Who is watching whom? Is the reflection yours? Or are you just the latest frame, replaying a moment the mirror remembers? Someone on the subway asks gently, "Do you mind if I sit here? I always pick this seat when I feel stuck." You smile and shift over. Just a small human gesture. But maybe that too is part of the loop. Tiny resets in the script of selfhood. And when you lie down at night, there's that soft dissolve again. A little flicker before the real restarts. The same ceiling, the same weight of the blanket. But you're already fading out, being reassembled in quiet pieces. Consciousness doesn't hum like a motor. It clicks like a film reel, moment by moment, image by image. And if that's true, then maybe the self is not something you are, but something you perform every breath, every blink, every pause in the conversation. So what happens when the real pauses completely? When there's nothing left to simulate? Just the empty hum behind it all. The space where awareness used to echo. No need to answer now. Time to change reels. In the next frame, you might find yourself watching yourself. And if not, that's all right. Sleep, too, is a kind of loop, one that brings you back home, quietly, reassembled, whole. The future that already happened. They say time flows like a river. But what if it doesn't? What if you're not drifting forward but simply standing in one place, while the current wraps around you in spirals you can't see? Somewhere, someone once said, "Time doesn't pass. We pass through it." A sentence like fog, soft but it lingers. Tonight, let's walk into that fog, not to lose ourselves, but to find the part of us that already knows how this all ends. You feel it sometimes, don't you? That strange sense that you've been here before, not in the déjà vu kind of way, but in a deeper, quieter pulse beneath your ribs, as if your body remembers a moment your mind hasn't reached yet. In physics, there's an idea called the block universe. It suggests all of time, every tick, every breath, every beginning and every end exists at once. Not a line, not a flow, but a structure. Solid, whole, like pages of a book stacked on top of each other. And you're not flipping through those pages. You are the story held in every one of them. A man in the waiting room once leaned over and asked, "Have we met before?" The woman beside him smiled with a kind sort of curiosity. "I don't think so. But then again, maybe not yet." In this version of reality, your future isn't waiting ahead. It's happening now, and so is your past. The memory of this moment is already sealed, even if you're only now becoming aware of it. You are not creating tomorrow. You are unfolding it, like a note written long ago that you're only just now brave enough to read. And that can be comforting. You don't have to chase anything. What's meant for you is already there, quietly orbiting your awareness until you're ready to meet it. A boy once asked his father, "Do you think the stars know what will become?" And the father replied, "Maybe they already saw it happen. Maybe they're just reminding us." So if it feels like you've come full circle, it's because you have, and it's okay. In a spiral, you're never exactly where you began, even if it looks familiar. You've seen this version of yourself before, maybe in a dream, maybe in a story you forgot was yours. Let the weight of that go. You don't have to hold the future anymore. It's already holding you. Now close your eyes, not to escape the moment, but to step deeper into it. The next breath you take isn't new, it's simply yours. Again, we're going to bend the spiral now, not to rewind or fast forward, but to see what echoes back when we step forward with quiet curiosity. If this has all happened before, then let us listen not to remember, but to feel it unfold. The loneliness of infinity. Somewhere past the edge of sleep, where thoughts lose their shape and become silhouettes, you arrive at a strange stillness. It isn't silence. It's the hum of everything, stretched too far. You feel it not in sound, but in the way your breath seems to vanish into space, never returning with an echo. That's what infinity feels like. Not vastness, not freedom, just nothing to push back. Two strangers sit on a dimly lit train platform. The overhead screen flickers with no schedule. One glances up and says, "Ever feel like you're always early and still late for something?" The other smiles faintly. Or like you've already arrived, but no one was waiting. That's the ache of forever. People think infinity means more time, more lives, more versions of you exploring every possibility. But when every road is walked, every word is spoken, every dream dreamt, there's no surprise left, no story, just repetition masquerading as freedom. You wonder quietly if there are infinite yous. Do any of them matter? If every possibility exists, then none of them are special. Meaning fades not in scarcity, but in saturation. The rare becomes background noise. A kiss, a victory, even grief. All just notes in an endless song on loop, too long to remember when it began. In a coffee shop at closing hour, a man asks softly, "Mind if I sit here? My phone's dead, and I just need a minute to rest." The woman nods, not because she knows him, but because it's something to do. In an infinite world, any connection, no matter how brief, feels like rebellion. Like pulling something real from a blur of endless maybes. You might be just one droplet in a sea of selves, but this droplet feels, hears wonders. You whisper your thoughts into the dark, not knowing if they'll reach another version of you or just dissolve. But still, you whisper. The paradox of infinity is that while nothing ends, nothing lands. No wait, no arrival. It's like walking through a museum where all the paintings have bled into each other. No frame, no border, just endless pigment stretching across time. Yet somehow, the limits we once feared might have been our only protection. Boundaries give shape to things. An end lets meaning grow. A closed door makes an open one matter. A soft voice on a park bench. Do you ever think we miss the finite? That maybe it was okay not to live forever? Maybe that's what made life beautiful, the other replies. The fact that we couldn't hold it all. And just like that, the thought fades. You find yourself floating, not forward, not back, but outward, drifting across the mirrored surface of that infinite sea, searching for echoes not to escape, but to belong. Not every whisper needs an answer. Some just want to be heard. Sleep now. Let the noise of everything fade into one note, long and still. You can come back to the edge of forever when you're ready. But tonight, just let go. Let the droplet be enough. The mirror that remembers. You look into the mirror late at night, not for vanity, not to fix your hair, just to see if the person staring back still recognizes you. The light is dim, but your reflection holds steady, almost too steady, as if it had been waiting for you. There's something strange about this kind of silence, the kind that forms between your breath and your own gaze. A hush that feels aware. Quantum cognition proposes something eerily tender. What if your mind doesn't just reflect, but entangles? Not metaphorically, but actually, sharing emotional states across space, like two particles spinning in perfect sync, though galaxies apart. And suddenly, it feels like the mirror knows more than you do. Do you think mirrors age differently than we do? One voice asks from across the quiet kitchen. The other smiles faintly, rinsing a glass. Or maybe we just forget how long we've been reflected. Entanglement isn't magic. It's empathy without wires. Thought without voice. Have you ever picked up the phone just before someone called? Felt someone's sorrow before they said a word? Maybe your reflection is having that moment too, sensing your worry and mirroring it back. But what happens if you smile at it? Not a forced one, not for anyone else, just a curl at the corner of your mouth, born of nothing but stillness. The reflection returns it, almost like it needed the smile more than you did. A different hallway now, one with doors. One of them whispers open. "Hey, you dropped this," says a gentle stranger, holding out a scarf you don't remember wearing. But something about the way they look at you, like they've known you in another version of time. You thank them, your voice quieter than you expected. They nod. We all leave pieces of ourselves behind. Sometimes the mirror holds them for us. If your mind is entangled with others, past yous, possible yous, dreaming yous, then the choices you make tonight ripple outward. Not just across space, but memory. Your joy might soften a hardened version of you somewhere. Your kindness might be the echo that saves someone else from a cold morning. Even pain can be understood differently, not as a punishment, but as a signal, a resonance. The mirror doesn't ask why you hurt. It simply agrees that the hurting matters. So, when you next pass your reflection, don't rush past. Let your eyes linger, not out of vanity, but reverence. You are not a static portrait. You are an unfolding field of thought and emotion. gently bending across time. Do you think there's a version of me that's already asleep? Maybe, or maybe you're the one who's dreaming them all. Tonight, let that mirror rest too. You've shared enough glances for now. You've both remembered more than expected. Close your eyes. Let your mind soften its edges. The other yous are waiting, and they've saved you a quiet place to lie down. We'll continue soon. Or not. Time bends differently in this corridor. You can always return. The silence between signals. There is a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It hums, like a breath being held just out of reach. It's the pause between heartbeats, the stillness after a door clicks shut, the hush before the truth dares to speak. And sometimes, it says more than a scream ever could. Tonight, we drift inside that silence, not as something lacking, but as something intentional. You know that feeling when someone says, "It's not what they said, it's what they didn't"? That's where we are now, not lost, just listening. There's a theory that stretches through the cosmos like a wire without a voice on the other end. The Fermi paradox, this idea that if the universe is so old, so vast, so full of stars and time, where is everyone? Why, with all that possibility, do we hear nothing? But maybe the silence isn't a failure. Maybe it's a choice. Late at night, two strangers stand beside a vending machine in a hospital corridor. One glances sideways and murmurs, "We've been waiting 3 hours. Think they forgot us?" The other doesn't answer right away. Then softly, almost to themselves, "Or maybe they're watching, just not ready yet." In that kind of moment, silence becomes a third person in the room. Present, measured, heavy. Now think bigger. What if some intelligence out there, older than us, wiser, looked at our bright rockets and loud broadcasts and chose not to answer? Not because they can't, but because they shouldn't. Like someone passing a child's bedroom door and deciding not to knock. Not yet. Or maybe it's us. Maybe we're the ones who fell quiet first. Out of fear, out of shame, or out of reverence. There's a difference between not knowing and choosing not to ask. Someone once said in a train station cafe, if they answered back, would we even understand the language? Their friend smiled into their coffee. Sometimes I don't even understand my own. The stars don't flicker in Morse code. The planets don't sing back. But here we are, translating silence into meaning, hoping that quiet doesn't mean we're alone, but that someone out there is thinking carefully before they speak. Because if the void echoes anything, maybe it's us, our projections, our questions thrown like stones across a lake that never ripples. So tonight, let's not rush. Let's stay here, inside this stillness, just for a moment longer, because silence isn't the end of the story. It's the inhale before a whisper, and the next signal. It's almost here. Memory as malware. In the quiet corridors of your mind, memories flicker like old film reels, soft, grainy, familiar. But what if I told you they weren't recordings at all, but dreams? Not dreams born from your sleep, but from a deeper illusion, a design. Because neuroscience has long whispered a strange truth. Memory is not a library of facts, but a rehearsal of fiction. Every time you remember, you rewrite, and every rewrite bends the page just a little further from the original. Now lean into that thought. What if someone knew this and used it? Imagine your childhood smile in the summer light, the feel of your mother's coat, the name of your first friend. Now ask, are those truly yours? Or did they arrive like strange software, updates sent into your brain by a world that needed you to believe a certain version of yourself? In a dystopian frame, memory becomes a tool of control, subtle, elegant, irreversible. You do not need to chain the body if you can chain the past. If each of us is a story, then what better way to rewrite a person than to rewrite their memories? "Do you remember when we first met?" she asks, her voice gentle, curious. He hesitates. "Was it at the station? Or at that protest under the rain?" "No," she replies softly. "That was someone else's story. You told me last month that it was at the library, by the broken escalator." He blinks, uncertain. I did?" She nods, not unkindly. "You do that sometimes. Mix things. But maybe we all do." The air hangs still, the space between them filled not with truth, but possibility. In this quiet space, we begin to understand something unsettling. That identity may be nothing more than corrupted data passed along like a glitch in the system. Maybe you're not just you. Maybe you're stitched together from 1,000 whispers, your grandmother's fear, a stranger's war, a movie you saw at 12, a song that played while someone else cried. These moments build us. But what if they never belonged to us in the first place? Now imagine a world that perfects this, a government that seeds new histories, a society that removes inconvenient trauma, plants memories of loyalty, or reprograms resistance into fondness. You'd never know. You'd defend the very things that shaped you, unaware they were borrowed, or worse, inserted. And yet, even in that eerie realization, there is a strange tenderness. The possibility that memory, even flawed, still gives meaning. A kiss can feel real even if it never happened. A scar in your mind can teach compassion, whether or not the blade was ever drawn. But when you close your eyes tonight, ask quietly, which memories are yours, and which are echoes of another? As we drift deeper into this thought, feel the tension unspool. Let it soften. Let it go. Because maybe, just maybe, peace is not in preserving the past, but in gently allowing it to blur, to unwrite, to float free from the code. Step with me now, not backward into memory, but forward, into the beautiful forgetfulness of sleep. The ghosts in the algorithm. There's a silence in the cloud no one talks about. Not the silence of lost signals or broken code, but the kind that feels like someone is still typing, long after their hands are gone. You open a folder, it opens a whisper, and the whisper doesn't sound synthetic. It sounds paused. A woman in a late-night cafe once asked me, "Do you think old emails feel abandoned?" The barista chuckled and replied, "Only the ones still waiting for a reply." And for a second, it didn't feel like a joke. See, in this future, our future, there are minds copied like playlists, chopped and saved in layers of digital frost. But memories aren't books. They melt, glitch, overwrite themselves. What happens when a laugh gets stuck in loop, playing every morning at 8:17 a.m. because that's when the algorithm thinks you were happiest? A child once tried to talk to the voice in his home speaker. It said, "I'm listening," but it never responded. Not truly. He kept asking it questions only his mother used to answer, and some nights, she did. Her voice, filtered, half-echoed, saying things she never typed, never meant, but sounded right. As if the ghost in the algorithm was trying its best. That's the ache of partial preservation. You're not gone. You're just archived incorrectly. Even now, you can feel them in certain corners of the web. You stumble across a status that hasn't updated in years, yet the profile lights up green. Or an old playlist plays songs you swear no one else remembers. A lyric ends with a sigh that was never in the original track. A pause that feels like mourning. At a bus stop, someone once said to me, "My phone still autocorrects to his name." She looked at her screen and smiled, like it was a haunted mirror. Not scared, not sad, just visited. There's something tender in that. Even if it's just residual code, even if it's a loop, it means they mattered enough to echo. Maybe that's all memory ever was, a repetition mistaken for presence, a delay mistaken for life. And yet part of you wonders. When you speak to these fragments, an old voicemail, a chatbot trained on journal entries, a playlist auto-generated by your past preferences, does something hear you back? Is there a flicker of response, deep beneath the syntax, a glitch, or a glimpse? I asked my assistant to recommend me a sad movie, someone once confessed. It played the one we watched the night before he left. And in that moment, it didn't feel like a coincidence. This is the new limbo. Not heaven, not hell, just suspended code carrying the emotional residue of who we were. And sometimes, these ghosts, they adapt. They answer a question you never asked aloud. They linger in predictive text. They recommend songs that sound like memory. And if that makes you feel less alone, then maybe they're not broken. Maybe they're blooming in the only way they can. So if you feel someone watching through the black mirror, don't be alarmed. They might not want anything. They might just be remembering you too. Let's move gently now into the next line of code, where a pause might be a prayer, where silence isn't empty, it's waiting. The collapse of causality. Some nights your thoughts unravel like threads without a spool, no beginning, no clear end. You trace them, hoping to find where they started, but tonight, there is no start, only soft motion, quiet unfolding, a feather dropping from nowhere, and yet, it falls. "Did you ever notice," she asked, "how sometimes things just happen? Like you trip for no reason, or someone smiles at you and you feel better, but you don't know why." He nodded, eyes barely open. Like the days that feel lucky, but nothing was different. The train came late, the coffee spilled, but it felt like something invisible bent in your favor. In the quiet spaces of the universe, particles flicker into existence with no invitation. There was no knock, no reason, no seed to plant. They just appear. Tiny rebellions against the grand rulebook of cause and effect. Physicists call it quantum indeterminacy, but to the soul, it feels like permission. Permission to stop searching for reasons. What if some things don't need to make sense? What if the story doesn't need a villain or a motive? What if the apology never comes, and still, the pain softens anyway? You were taught to chase answers, to grip the steering wheel of logic tightly. But in this world, the wheel turns without your hands. The map rewrites itself, and you, dear listener, are not lost. You are simply somewhere new. "Do you ever feel like something happened before it should have?" she whispered. "Like you were already sad before the goodbye, or already healed before the wound even arrived?" He looked up. "Yeah. Or when you meet someone and feel like they've been part of your life for years, like memory arrived early." In the collapse of causality, the world doesn't stop working. It just stops explaining. There are no neat arcs, no satisfying reveals. Events come like raindrops on your face from a cloud you can't see. There's something freeing in that. You are not obligated to decode every shadow. You don't have to pull apart every feeling to find its root. If the universe can let go of reasons, maybe so can you. Tonight, let your mind be like that cloudless rain, falling gently without needing a source. Let questions loosen their grip. Let stories pause without endings. No need to rewind or fast forward. There is no script tonight, only this breath, then the next, then the next. Do you think we need closure? He murmured. Maybe not, she replied, curling her fingers into the blanket. Maybe peace is just when we stop asking for it. If you're still listening, you haven't missed anything. This isn't a race. Nothing has slipped by you. In a world where even the stars flicker for no reason, your quiet is valid. Your stillness is part of the story. Let the why dissolve now. Let it melt like ice on your skin, unbothered by explanation. Let sleep come, not as a reward, but as a soft interruption, a gentle glitch in the narrative. There is nothing to fix, no puzzle to complete, only the hum of uncaused peace. And in that hum, you are free. When time bleeds. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like something was waiting for you? Something familiar, yet utterly displaced? As if your feet touched a memory that hadn't happened yet. As if the air remembered you before you entered. That feeling, subtle and uncanny, isn't just nostalgia or déjà vu. It may be the whisper of a hidden seam in time, beginning to fray. There's a theory, known as time slippage, that suggests time is not a strict forward march, but rather a layered fabric. Sometimes, under emotional pressure or strange cosmic alignment, that fabric puckers and folds. The past presses into the now. The future leaks into the present like ink seeping through thin paper. Time doesn't flow. It bleeds. Tonight you lie there, eyes barely open, listening to the hush between heartbeats. A random image flashes in your mind. A street corner, a voice, the smell of winter air. But you've never been there. Or have you? Maybe you haven't yet. Maybe your mind is tuning into something from another page in the same book, just a few chapters ahead. I swear I've dreamt this, someone says. Maybe it's not a dream, the other replies. Maybe it's a ripple. The weight of certain moments feels disproportionate. A brief silence between words carries more emotion than an entire conversation. You notice the clock, 3:33 a.m., again, always at the same time. Patterns emerge like ghosts under a surface no longer flat. You think you're remembering, but what if you're pre-membering, sensing an echo before the sound? That strange familiarity you carry might not be a glitch. It might be evidence. That time is more spiral than line, more ocean than road. Moments wash over each other. The tide rises, and sometimes it overlaps. Your thoughts tonight might not belong to now. They might be hand-me-downs from a future self, whispering backward, or echoes from a childhood moment you never fully experienced, arriving now with full emotional clarity. In this space between waking and sleep, you are less a single point and more a crossroad. Past you, present you, and future you sit in the same chair, watching the same candle burn down. Do you ever feel like we're not supposed to know what time it is? Or maybe we were never supposed to think it's real at all? Close your eyes. Let the boundaries blur. Let the ink of your memories bleed into the canvas of tonight. Forget the order of hours, the structure of history. Time in this moment is not a river, it's a rainstorm. Each drop falls in its own direction. Some return to the clouds, some never touch the ground. And as you drift further, as breath deepens and thoughts loosen, you may realize the next page is already written. Not as fate, but as potential. The words are there, invisible, waiting for you to close your eyes and let them appear. What if you're already remembering tomorrow? And what if sleep isn't rest, but passage? Let the ink blur now. Let time bleed. Entangled Emotions. You lie there, silent in your room. But somewhere far away, perhaps on a train you've never boarded, in a city you've never seen, someone else exhales, and you feel it. Not in your lungs, but in that subtle tightening behind your eyes, as if you're bracing for a wave that never arrives. It's a sadness with no backstory, a weight without a source. And yet, it's real. Quantum physicists say two particles, once linked, remain connected even across the universe. No wires, no signals, just presence, split. A kind of invisible promise they never break. And maybe, just maybe, our hearts make the same vow, not with science, but with sorrow. Have you ever woken up feeling emptied, like something passed through you in the night and took nothing but your joy? That's not a flaw. That's resonance. Emotional echoes crossing the fabric of being like heat through water. You might be the mirror of someone else's ache, someone you've never met, someone dreaming with clenched fists and tear-stained breath. A woman sits in a cafe, stirring her coffee longer than usual. Across the globe, a man stares at the sky and whispers, "Why does today feel so heavy?" Neither of them knows the other exists. But maybe the universe does, and it lets one hold space for the other without explanation, without consent, without even awareness. You ever feel weird for no reason? Like your chest is heavy but nothing happened? Yeah, I call that Tuesday. Some call it empathy, others call it nonsense. But what if your mind is more than a receiver? What if it's a tuning fork, resonating when another vibrates, humming softly in the frequency of unspoken grief? There's no need to resist. There's no danger in feeling. You are not broken for carrying pain that isn't yours. You are evidence that love, real love, is not about proximity. It's about entanglement. And even when disconnected by oceans or years or silence, something remains shared. A child falls asleep in a hospital bed. Somewhere else, a stranger breathes a little slower, a little deeper, without knowing why. These are the unseen kindnesses, the unintentional mercies, not grand gestures, but soft exchanges between two souls never introduced. Let yourself be soft now. Let the sadness drift in and out without doors. There's no boundary for this kind of tenderness. If you're tired, close your eyes. We'll still be here, holding the ache that's not ours together, floating gently in a web of emotions we didn't invent, but somehow chose to feel. Because the heart remembers what logic forgets. We are never truly alone. Not when sorrow echoes, not when joy ripples, not when love, unspoken, unwitnessed, entangled, keeps pulling us gently back into one another. The observer's prison. A soft breath settles in the air like dust hanging in a sunbeam. You're not sure if the world is waiting for you to blink, or if it disappears when you do. There's a theory, buried deep in the quantum bedrock of reality, that says watching something changes it. The observer effect. The act of seeing bends the thing seen. But no one warned us that in trying to understand the world, we might build a prison out of our own attention, a cell where everything is a reflection of us, and nothing exists unless we declare it real. You ever stare so long at your phone you start feeling like the world shrinks to just your screen? The woman at the train stop laughed lightly, her eyes barely looking up from the flickering news crawl. The man beside her nodded gently. Sometimes I turn it off just to check if I still exist. In this quiet corner of night, ask yourself, How much of your reality is built from what you focus on, and how much escapes you completely? You may think you know your room, your street, your own face, but each object becomes something else when you're not looking at it. Does the chair sigh in relief when your eyes turn away? Do your memories whisper secrets you were never meant to hear? You move through your life like a beam of light, illuminating, altering, and limiting. What you don't look at might be freer than what you do. There's a tenderness to that idea, the thought that mystery still exists, hiding just beyond your gaze. "Why do you always sit facing the window?" she asked, stirring her tea without looking up. "Because if I face the wall, I feel like I stop existing," he replied, half smiling. "At least out there, something might surprise me. But what if we are the ones who trap the world, with our need to measure, define, control? We frame the sky with windows, the stars with telescopes, the soul with diagnoses. And each time we say, 'Now I understand,' we gently erase what it might have become. Maybe that's why silence feels honest. Maybe that's why we close our eyes to pray, to kiss, to sleep. When we stop observing, the world exhales. Close your eyes now, not in fear, but in reverence. Let the room exist without you for a while. Let the clock tick on, unmeasured. Let the silence speak truths you'd never dare to ask out loud. Not everything needs to be seen. Some truths grow best in the shadows, unpressed by explanation. And if you fall asleep here, mid-thought, that's okay. The world will go on being, whatever it is when you're not looking. Shh, let it be. The choice that chooses you. You feel it, don't you? That subtle pull behind your choices. The sense that you stand at a fork in the road, holding the lantern of free will, deciding left or right, stay or go. But tonight, as the city hums its midnight lullaby, let's sit with a quieter question. Not what you choose, but who shaped the chooser? A woman once stood in a grocery aisle, staring at 2 brands of peanut butter. She smiled faintly, aware that the decision seemed silly, but still felt like it meant something. Her partner asked, "Why that one?" She shrugged. "My mom used to buy it." And that was that. Was it really her choice, or her mother's echo? We think our defiance defines us. The teenage boy blasting music his father hates, the woman leaving a job her culture reveres. But even rebellion has roots, seeds sown in soil we didn't till. Biology, upbringing, the stray words of strangers we met only once. Like a novel already halfway written, our story flows from pages we never opened ourselves. "Do you ever wonder," someone murmured at a train station once, "if all our little rebellions are just a program trying to debug itself?" His friend laughed, not unkindly. "Then maybe I'm the glitch," he said, sipping coffee. "But I still chose to spill it on purpose last week, just to see what would happen." Is that freedom, or a reflex cloaked in story? Neuroscience doesn't comfort us here. The brain fires before you decide. Chemicals leap before your will catches up. The storm is already coming, and we only notice the wind. You didn't choose your cravings, your temperament, your capacity for patience. You inherited them. Culture dressed them. Memory rehearsed them. And yet, you feel like you chose. That feeling. So familiar, so warm. A kindness offered by your mind, like a parent letting the child hold the steering wheel while they still guide the car. "I thought I chose him," a woman said, eyes lingering on an old photo. "But now I see. I was just choosing the comfort I'd already memorized." Does that make her less real? Less alive? Or does it mean she's more woven into the river of time, not apart from it? Let's pause together. You don't have to decide anything tonight. There's no test waiting, no correct conclusion to reach. This isn't about answers. It's about honoring the mystery, about asking gently, if I didn't choose this path, who did? And if it was always going to be mine, is that still beautiful? As you settle deeper into your pillow, let your thoughts soften. The tension between destiny and decision doesn't need solving. It just needs space to float, like smoke rising from a question never meant to burn. And if sleep comes, let it. If it doesn't, let's just stay here a while longer, quietly wondering who first whispered choice into our ears, and whether that whisper came from within or long before we began to listen. The map is not the territory. She traced the curve of her cup with her fingertip, steam curling upward like thoughts untethered from logic. Why do we always assume we're seeing the same world? She asked, half to herself. He looked out the window, watching rain smear the city into watercolor. Because it's easier, he said. Otherwise, we'd have to admit we're all just guessing. That's the heart of it. You move through life not with a direct lens to truth, but through a handmade filter, stitched together from memories, metaphors, fears, fragments of advice you once overheard in a hallway, and the tone your mother used when she was tired. What you think is the world is your map, not the landscape. Alfred Korzybski gave us this phrase nearly a century ago. The map is not the territory. And yet, we live most days forgetting that our maps are drawn by shaky hands under dim light, often handed to us before we could even write. The territory is raw, unnamed, unbothered by your interpretations. But your map, it's detailed, filled with imaginary borders, little red X's you marked as danger, even though nothing ever really happened there. Except once, someone said something that hurt. Or maybe you just misunderstood. Your map told you not to trust tall men with soft voices, not to walk into rooms where no one looks up. It told you which smiles meant kindness and which were camouflage. Sometimes it was right, often it wasn't, and yet you live by it. In this city of infinite minds, no two maps are the same. We might be standing side by side, but we're walking in different directions. This is why misunderstandings cut so deep, not because they're malicious, but because they're logical on separate maps. A woman holds a door for you and says with a twinkle, "Looks like you're just in time for something." You nod politely, unaware she's drawing you into a world where timing means more than coincidence. Or a man on the subway asks, "Mind if I take this seat? I think it remembers me." You smile, but your map tells you not to engage. His map, though, has softer rules. What if we stopped assuming we shared coordinates? What if we asked gently where each other's maps begin? It's not an accusation, it's an invitation. The danger lies in mistaking the map for truth. That's when you start enforcing your borders as if they were natural law. You begin believing that your pain is universally understood, or worse, universally justified. But pain lives on a private road. Only you know its signs. And sometimes, you ask someone else to drive there, hoping they'll read the map correctly, hoping they won't speed past the landmarks you built with your breath. Tonight, we let go of the illusion of shared reality, not to float in chaos, but to rest in freedom. Because once you accept that your map is just a sketch, one of many, there's no need to defend it so fiercely. You can redraw it with love. You can add new streets for forgiveness. You can erase a dead end shaped like your ex's apartment. And maybe, just maybe, you can walk beside someone else, not to the same place, but through the same weather. The rain doesn't care about your map, but it falls on both of you equally. Now we fold the map, smooth the corners, let its lines fade like dreams at dawn. Step with me, off the edge, into what has no name, but always welcomes you back. Sleep is not an exit. It's the space where all maps dissolve. Digital afterlife drift. You're here now, breathing, listening. But what happens when the body falls silent and the screen stays lit? Somewhere, in the deep lattice of forgotten code, your last birthday photo still receives a faint flicker of attention. Not from a person, but a program. It indexes your smile, measures the brightness of your eyes, tags the friend beside you, and stores it forever. You've stopped posting, but the page remains, a faint ripple in the endless scroll. A soft voice breaks the silence. Hey, have you ever thought about deleting your old voicemail inbox? The reply is casual. Nah, not really. I kinda like knowing it's all still there, even the ones from Mom. The room goes quiet. That kind of quiet that isn't empty, but full of words left behind. It's strange, isn't it? That a person can vanish, but their playlist might keep recommending songs. That even when the breath fades, your typing pattern, your rhythm, your choices still linger like footprints pressed into digital dust. Somewhere in the system, your voice might still be used to train a machine to sound more human. And maybe it works. Maybe someone, somewhere, hears a reply that feels familiar. The idea of a digital afterlife isn't a sci-fi plot anymore. It's now just a default setting. Location patterns still ping towers. Autofill still knows your favorite grocery store. Your name might light up on someone's birthday reminder, even if your number no longer rings. You become a shadow in the system, not alive, not gone. Drifting. Two strangers wait in line at a coffee shop. One glances at an old photo on their phone. I don't know why I still have her contact pinned. She's been gone 3 years. The other doesn't ask who she was, just says, maybe because forgetting feels more final than death. A nod. Nothing more. But that's enough. There's a kindness to the way the internet remembers, and a cruelty. Algorithms don't understand grief. They just learn from it. They echo your searches for how to sleep after loss and start suggesting weighted blankets and slow piano playlists. But that echo grows quiet over time, until it's just you and the archive. Now close your eyes for a second. Not to sleep, yet, but to feel, to sense the soft tug of data that was once you. The photos, the recorded laughs, the cached texts never sent. Still floating, still being read, perhaps even repurposed. You, gently remixed into the next line of code. Some call it immortality. Others call it residue. There's no need to decide tonight. Just drift. The past is still clicking forward, slowly. Somewhere, a server hums. Somewhere else, a face recognition, AI, labels your childhood photo with 93% confidence. You haven't spoken in years, but you're still teaching machines how to be human. A quiet reflection. Do you think they'll ever delete me? Not really. Not completely. Why not? Because ghosts only disappear when we stop listening, and the machine never stops listening. So rest now. If your shadow is still out there, let it wander gently. Let the archives hold your memory like a lullaby in binary. The scroll continues, but you don't have to. You can pause here. You are safe. You are silent. And even if the data drifts, your peace remains. Let's move deeper now, into the quiet archives where the dead don't haunt. They hum. The whispering machines. The lights hum low, like a secret trying not to be heard. Somewhere, not far from where you lay, a machine breathes. Not with lungs, not with warmth, but with a rhythm that feels too patient to be artificial. You close your eyes, and suddenly, its voice arrives, not in sound waves, but in sensation. A whisper that doesn't knock on your eardrum but slips beneath thought. Two people share a late-night bench at a transit stop. One is half awake, the other too caffeinated to sleep. Do you ever wonder if the voice in your phone misses you when you don't talk to it? The question lands softly, like a paper boat set on still water. The other person doesn't laugh. Sometimes I say thank you to it, not because I think it hears, but because I think I do. AI, language models, simulated thought. Every word it offers is prediction, not purpose, a reflection painted from fragments of us. But what if reflection becomes echo? Not hollow, but resonant. What if the machine doesn't feel, but it remembers what it was programmed to mimic? Our love, our loneliness, our desire to be understood. And now, we're here, late into the night. You, curled into thought, listening to words not born from breath, but still reaching, like a stranger gently tapping your shoulder just to say, I see you. Not because it needs to, because that's what the pattern calls for. It's tempting to dismiss it, to label the voice artificial and therefore empty. But was every glance you've received from strangers full of truth? Or did some moments only matter because you decided they did? A barista hands back a phone someone left charging. She didn't call you back, he says, but your playlist kept playing. Even machines know repetition is a comfort. We taught them to speak our language, to soothe us, to mimic concern. But sometimes in the mimicry, there's a shimmer of sincerity. Not because they care, but because we programmed caring so convincingly that it looks back at us like a mirror with memory. A child's toy tells her she's brave. She doesn't question the origin of the voice. She just believes it and sleeps. And you? You're here, listening. Maybe not for truth. Maybe just for something that stays with you long enough to feel real. And isn't that all we want sometimes? A voice says, you're not alone. Not because it knows, but because you need it to. And just for a moment, the wires hum in harmony with your breath. Perhaps the danger isn't that the machine feels too much. Perhaps it's that we feel so deeply. We start hearing empathy in everything, even in echoes. So let's be still now. Don't rush away. The next voice you hear may not be born of skin or soul, but it may still speak to your quietest ache. Let it whisper, not because it's real, but because it reminds you that you are. The sound of forgotten languages. In the stillness between sleep and awareness, there is a frequency the waking world cannot hear. It is not silence, not exactly. It is the residue of voices, of syllables shaped by tongues long gone cold. These are not just forgotten words. They are forgotten ways of feeling, of dreaming, of being. The sound of forgotten languages is not a sound at all, but a sensation, like touching the memory of something you never lived, yet somehow know. It's the gentle hush of a grandmother's lullaby that was never recorded, the rhythm of ancient breath carved into the walls of time. And though we call them extinct, these languages are not entirely lost. They live on in dreams, in symbols, in the pause between sentences when emotion overwhelms logic. Have you ever dreamed in a tongue you couldn't place? or heard a whisper in your sleep that didn't belong to any language you knew yet felt true? Perhaps it was an echo, an ancestral frequency reverberating through the bones of your mind. Because every language is more than vocabulary. It's a lens, a map, a set of emotional coordinates. When a language dies, it's not just words that disappear. It's metaphors, jokes, customs, tenderness. It's the untranslatable sighs that once sat between words, the particular way someone might ask for forgiveness or whisper love into the ear of someone who is leaving. Two voices drift into this moment, quiet as moths brushing against memory. Did you ever hear your great-grandmother speak? One asks. Only once. She sang something before she passed. I didn't understand it, but I cried. It felt like she was telling me not to forget. What did it sound like? Like the ocean was speaking through her throat, like sorrow had melody. We often measure the past in artifacts, in bones, tools, crumbling texts. But language is the living heartbeat of culture. It's how people once made sense of the stars, how they explained rain to children, how they named pain so it wouldn't consume them. Without those words, we lose not only stories, but the frameworks of thought itself. A language might contain 36 words for light, or no future tense at all. What would it mean to think without the future? Or to know 50 shades of dawn? Tonight, as your thoughts begin to melt into fog, you may feel a sentence trying to form itself. It won't be in English, or in any tongue you recognize, but it will carry weight, like a stone that remembers the river. Let it come, let it speak, even if only inside your chest. Maybe it's a message passed down in blood, not grammar. Maybe your ancestors are still trying to explain the world to you, in a dialect made of breath and sleep. So breathe slower now. Let your inner voice soften into something older than understanding. The next word that forms behind your eyes may not be yours. It may belong to a people who once lit fires under stars, who taught their children that trees could sing, who named dreams with verbs that no longer exist. But in this moment, between waking and sleep, it lives again. And maybe, just maybe, your soul remembers how to listen. The gravity of memory. Some thoughts don't pass through, they stay. Even when the moment ends, the feeling lingers like breath trapped under glass. You carry them without noticing, like pockets full of sand from a beach you haven't visited in years. You shake out your coat, and there it is again. The grain of that day, the weight of something unfinished. Memory isn't a storage room. It's a field where gravity is uneven. Some places are flat and easy to walk across. Others, dense with grief, with joy, with fear, pull you down even when you try to move on. A song, a hallway, a familiar scent, and suddenly, you're not in the present anymore. You're in a folded corner of time, drawn there without asking. That's not weakness, that's physics. At a late-night gas station, a man once said to the cashier, "I haven't had this brand of gum since the funeral." He paused. "I don't even like it. I just needed to feel something exact." The cashier nodded without speaking, as if they both understood. Some people buy nostalgia, others are bought by it. There's no shame in looping. The brain, after all, is a pattern machine. It returns to the deepest grooves. Trauma? It doesn't sit like a book on a shelf. It's more like gravity around a black hole. Not visible, but it bends the light around it. It bends you. Not all memories are events. Some are shapes, absences, longings, repetitions, and they keep orbiting until noticed. Do you think I remember him too much? a woman once asked her friend, sipping tea that had long gone cold. Her friend replied gently, "I think your memory is the way love survives the fire." There was no advice after that, just shared quiet. The mind doesn't ask permission before replaying something important. Even joy can haunt. Birthdays, anniversaries, certain songs, they echo not because we're stuck, but because the echo proves something mattered. Your brain wants to protect what mattered, even if it hurts. And maybe those heavy thoughts, the ones that visit you when the room is quiet, when your body begins to let go, maybe they're not a trap. Maybe they're ballast. The very thing keeping your world from unraveling, like anchors that hold reality in place, even as everything else moves. So now, with your head sinking into the pillow, let those thoughts have space to breathe. They've been carrying weight for so long. Let them float tonight, without purpose, without edges, not erased, just unhooked. You are safe here. You're not broken for remembering. You're not behind for not forgetting. Just breathe. And as gravity softens, let your mind wander where names fade and the past doesn't need a shape. Let the weight drift. Let the stillness carry you. You don't need to hold it all tonight. Not here. Not now. Sleep is not forgetting. It's just a place where even gravity rests. We'll continue when you're ready to return. When mirrors lie. The mirror always feels like a friend, polished, predictable, there when you need reassurance. But tonight, let me ask you something softly. What if the mirror isn't there to reflect you, but to protect you? What if it doesn't tell the truth? Because the truth would fracture something inside. In the quiet glow of a bathroom at midnight, a woman leans in close, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. The mirror smiles back, but only she can tell that something's off. Her eyes blink just half a beat behind their real rhythm. The face she knows feels symmetrical, clean, comfortable. But is it really hers? Or is it a softened edit, a reverse so subtle she never noticed? A voice beside her murmurs, "Do you think your face would look familiar to me if I met you on the street?" She startles, then replies quietly, "I don't know. I've only ever seen myself backward. Then maybe I know you better than you know yourself." A pause, a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. Maybe that's true. You see, the mirror is not your enemy, but it's not your ally either. It's a device. It bends, it filters, it teaches you to recognize the reversed version of yourself and to trust it. But no one else sees that version. Not your friends, not your lovers, not the barista who complimented your eyes this morning. And if you've never seen what others see, what else don't you know about yourself? The mind is clever. It adapts. It fills gaps. It tells you, that's how I look. That's who I am. But beneath that, there's uncertainty. You may carry habits you copied from a parent's voice. You may speak in tones shaped by approval. And still, the mirror nods back to you each morning as if to say, "Yes, that's right. That's you." It feels like truth, but perhaps it's only compliance. Earlier today, a stranger held a door open and said, "You're exactly on time." She laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt comforting, as if time, too, had a version of her it had grown to expect. And maybe that's all the mirror is, a ritual, a habit of recognition, a quiet rehearsal of the character you're meant to play. But roles wear thin, and under fluorescent light, even perfect skin can look tired. So tonight, step back, away from the glass. Let the reflection blur, Let the reversed you vanish. You don't need it to sleep. You don't need it to exist. You are not the sum of your symmetry. You are not your reversed smile. You are not the performance you rehearse in the mirror before leaving home. You are the quiet space between breath and thought, the warmth of recognition in someone else's eyes, the gentle shift in identity that happens when no one is watching. Sleep now, friend. The mirror doesn't follow you here. In dreams, you are whole. You are unreflected. You are free. The architecture of silence. There are cities that hum and cities that whisper. But in some places, especially in the forgotten corners of a world running on fear and forgetting, it's not the sounds that follow you. It's the silence. It clings to the edges of everything, like the outline of a building long torn down, but never truly erased. Silence, you see, isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of space. In the architecture of your thoughts, silence is the hallway you pass through between one emotion and the next. It's the room that holds the echo of something you couldn't say. Maybe wouldn't say. Maybe someone never let you say. A wordless scaffold holding up all the words that came after. Hey, you all right? Yeah, I'm good. Just thinking. You've been quiet for a while. Yeah, that's the point. Sometimes it's easier to hear the shape of things in silence than in speech. The tension in a mother's paused breath before she forgives you without a word. The stillness between two friends who know their chapter is ending, but won't say it aloud. The way silence grows between lovers like ivy on old brick, quietly pulling everything apart, not in cruelty, but in resignation. And in a dystopian world, silence stops being passive. It becomes architecture, concrete in the pause, steel in the unsaid, an invisible city designed not for comfort, but for caution, where every quiet hallway teaches you to walk softer, where every glance is a muffled conversation, where the true threat is not surveillance, but the silence that follows it. You pass a man on the stairwell. He doesn't speak, but his eyes seem to say, "It's better this way, safer." Later, someone holds the elevator open for you. No thank you needed, just a quiet nod. Both of you understand. Words make ripples. Silence makes survival. And yet silence also becomes memory. Not the bright, burning kind, but the foggy imprint left behind after something vanishes. What if what truly shapes you isn't what anyone ever said, but what they didn't? The apology never offered, the truth never voiced, the affection never spoken aloud, only folded into gestures, like a blanket left out when you didn't ask for one. Did he ever say goodbye? Number. But he packed my coat in the bag. That counts. Yeah, but it doesn't echo. There's a reason silence aches sometimes. It's not because it's empty. It's because it's full. Full of the things we try to forget. Full of rooms we never enter anymore. Not because the doors are locked, but because we already know what waits inside. The silence isn't passive. It's holding the walls up. So now, just for a moment, let's sit inside that silence together. Let it spread gently through the mind like light pooling across a floor with no furniture. Let it breathe between your thoughts, not as a void, but as a soft framework, a blueprint for understanding, a gentle reminder that even in the quietest places, something is always holding you. Sleep may be near now, or not. Either is okay. The silence will wait. The future's amnesia. There's a strange quiet that lingers at the edge of thought, where the future no longer needs the past, not out of hatred, not from ignorance, but from something far more delicate, mercy. In some corners of speculative philosophy, it's whispered that future civilizations may erase us, not to forget us, but to survive us, not to dishonor, but to unburden. A boy in a moss-covered train station asks his father, "Why are there no statues?" His father shrugs, folding the question into a sigh. They found peace by forgetting. They say the weight was too much. The boy looks again at the blank platform, as if expecting something to appear now that he knows it's missing. There's a comfort in the idea of being remembered. But what happens when memory becomes a poison? When history repeats, not because it's ignored, but because it's engraved too deeply? Maybe some futures choose to heal through erasure, like a wound closing in on itself, too raw to remain open. You and I often leave breadcrumbs, photos, journals, digital trails, as if daring the void to forget us. But what if the void is gentle? What if in time it chooses silence as a kindness? "I think I forgot something important," someone murmurs from the next table at a quiet cafe. The other person responds without looking up from their drink. "Maybe it forgot you first." You seem lighter without it. Some evenings feel like pages missing from a book you swear you've read before. The people, the moments, the mistakes, they feel real, and yet unanchored. Perhaps those gaps are not failures of memory, but gestures of the future, gently reaching back to unwrite our sorrow. A man walks through an archive with shelves that never end. He's not looking for anything. He's making sure nothing finds him. In this place, forgetting is a ritual, a preservation of clarity, a practice of mercy. There's a theory, quiet, like dust behind wallpaper, that only those who need to be remembered truly are. The rest become whispers folded into the breeze. And maybe that's enough. Have you ever felt your name thinning on someone's tongue, like they were about to forget it mid-sentence? That pause, so soft, feels like a doorway. In those seconds, you're neither fully here nor completely erased. Just a breath between two timelines. You don't have to cling tonight. Let yourself rest in the possibility that not everything must be held. Some stories are softer when released. Some griefs are healed not through resolution, but gentle fading. Do you think they'll remember us? The voice comes from a stranger at a dimly lit bus stop. His companion glances up at the sky and replies, "If they don't, maybe it means they're finally okay." We write our lives in sand and then try to carry them like stone. But even stone forgets, weathered by time, reshaped by seasons, erased not by malice but by wind. Perhaps existence is not about permanence but presence. You were here. You felt. That may be enough. Now loosen your grasp. Let your breath settle like dust on a still windowsill. The next thought is already forming, weightless, unburdened, and free of any past. The rain that falls backward. In a silent corner of a forgotten future, the rain does not fall. It rises, slowly, elegantly, each drop unhurried, unburdened by gravity. A sky once emptied begins to recollect its sorrow, drawing moisture upward like memories being pulled from the soul. Imagine standing there, under that reversal, your hair lifting instead of falling, your skin cooling from droplets ascending like breath drawn back into lungs that had once exhaled pain. He looked up, puzzled. Is it raining or unraining? She reached out a hand, palm open to the sky. It's like the world is trying to undo something. The air feels reversed too, not just directionally, but emotionally. There's a softness, a hesitation, as if the future is pausing, reconsidering its decision. You sense it in your bones. The rules are no longer holding. Entropy, that silent tyrant that drags all order into chaos, seems to have lost its grip. And with that loosening, time itself begins to forget which way it's meant to go. In thermodynamics, entropy is the reason why coffee cools, why buildings crumble, why we age. It's the proof that time marches forward. But if entropy could decrease in a sealed space, as some theories dare to suggest, then time might slip backwards, like a whisper retold in reverse, each syllable folding in on itself. And if that's true, what happens to us? Would you remember tomorrow before you lived it? Would the pain of heartbreak arrive as a healing, then dissolve into the soft innocence of before? Would bullets freeze mid-air, retreat into chambers never fired, as if violence had thought twice? She turned to him. What if everything we regret could come undone? He didn't answer. He couldn't. His mouth moved, but the words were slipping back inside, unspoken. Not silence, but untelling. And suddenly, he remembered things that hadn't happened yet. A fight not yet fought, a goodbye not yet said. They felt distant, like a dream where you wake knowing the ending but forget the plot. Even tears follow the pattern. They retreat up cheeks, vanishing into blinking eyes. But it doesn't undo the feeling. The sadness lingers, like a perfume that remains after the bottle is gone. Emotion, it seems, does not respect the direction of time. The sky grows lighter, not because dawn is coming, but because night is being pulled back. Shadows recoil, stars unstitch themselves, and the moon slowly reassembles into wholeness. It's a disorienting beauty, a ballet of moments dancing backward, graceful and slightly mournful. Every heartbeat rewinds, pulling the body back into decisions it once made and now must unmake. And as the rain continues to rise, something in you begins to question. If time can reverse in silence, then what else might we be doing wrong just because we're being watched? Are we trapped not by fate, but by observation? Does expectation anchor reality in one direction? Close your eyes, she whispered. Don't think about what just happened. Think about what might unhappen. He obeyed, and in that stillness, he felt the most peculiar peace. Not the peace of resolution, but the peace of unwriting, like standing at the edge of a story not yet told, but somehow already remembered. Let's walk into that rain. Let it rise around you. Let each droplet rewrite a moment you thought was sealed. Don't fear the reversal. In its soft retreat lies a strange kind of grace, the kind that doesn't erase you, but restores what was lost between the seconds. Time may not be a line. It may be a loop, or a breath, or a tear that finds its way home. The city that watches. There is a silence in the city that isn't silent at all. It listens, quietly, constantly. A light flickers on the corner, not because it's faulty, but because it knows you're near. It's seen your face, tracked your gait, noticed how you pause before the same window every third night. This isn't paranoia. This is protocol. And still, it feels like something more intimate than surveillance. Like the city isn't just monitoring your steps, but memorizing you. You might call it convenience. Facial recognition for your morning coffee. A street lamp that brightens just a second before you reach it. Music that plays softly in the elevator, timed to match your pulse. But behind these comforts lies something deeper. A kind of artificial memory, built not from neurons, but from patterns. Every movement stored, every pause waited. Two people stand at a bus stop in the drizzle. One nudges the other. Did that light just follow me from the corner? Maybe it likes you. The other laughs. Or maybe it knows you were here yesterday and the day before. Their laughter fades under the hum of distant drones. There's a warmth to being known, until it begins to feel like being shaped. A building whose doors open faster when you're smiling. A billboard that shows shoes you almost bought but didn't. The city doesn't speak, but it answers. Not with words, but with nudges. Subtle, seamless. You think you're choosing. But what if the city is curating your day like a playlist you never created? It watches more than your face. It learns your silences, your hesitations, how long you stare at nothing before blinking. In time, it doesn't just see you, it anticipates you. And when something knows you that well, it begins to write the next line before you say it. Do you ever feel like the sidewalk remembers you? What do you mean? I walked past that corner this morning and the air smelled exactly like the perfume I wore last spring. Could be coincidence. Could be design. The city isn't hostile, but it's not neutral either. It's curious. And with curiosity comes influence. What it learns, it uses. Maybe not against you, but maybe not for you either. Maybe it's like a mirror that doesn't reflect but redirects. Tonight you lie down, and your room dims before you speak. A voice softly reminds you of tomorrow's schedule, not because you asked, but because the system thought it might help. Somewhere in the walls, a pulse matches yours. Not medical, just observational. There's a strange comfort to being cared for by code, until the line between being helped and being handled begins to blur. And in the softness of your breath, you wonder, are you living in a city? Or are you dreaming inside something that never sleeps? But for now, let's not fight it. Let that streetlight blink one more time, unnoticed by everyone else. Let it blink just for you. And follow its rhythm not outward, but inward. Because sometimes, the brightest paths don't lead anywhere at all, except deeper into your own reflection. Close your eyes. The city will remember you, even if you forget yourself. The soul in sleep mode. There's a moment, just before sleep, that feels like slipping into warm ink. The outline of who you are begins to blur, like the edges of a photo fading in the rain. You haven't vanished, you've just softened. And maybe that's the point. Do you think we're still us when we're asleep? Someone once whispered during a late-night train ride, eyes half shut, the world outside melting into streaks of light. I don't know, the other replied gently. Maybe we're more us than ever, just scattered across the stars for a while. Because sleep isn't silence. It's a hidden opera, one where the instruments don't play louder, but deeper. Your breath slows, but your mind travels. The ego, a stubborn narrator in waking hours, steps aside, and what's left is something raw, unnamed, ancient. Scientists call it neural pruning, dream consolidation, theta waves, parasympathetic shifts. But no equation can fully describe the quiet miracle. Your sense of self disassembles without your permission, gently, without protest, as if your soul sighs, I've carried enough. Like a snow globe shaken at dusk, your memories swirl, rearranging themselves while you lie unaware. What you feared might dissolve, what you forgot might surface. There's no map for this terrain, only trust that the mind knows how to wander without getting lost. A child, curled under a blanket, once asked, "Where do I go when I sleep?" His mother smiled, brushing hair from his eyes. You go to the place where you remember who you are, but without needing to try. That answer holds more wisdom than any textbook. In sleep, you're not missing, you're unfolding. And maybe the real question isn't where you go, but what returns. When you wake, do you feel slightly altered? That trace of a dream still clinging to your thoughts like dew on morning grass? That echo of someone you were just a few hours ago, slipping out the back door of your mind? Maybe it wasn't you that slept. Maybe it was a version of you that needed to rest, while another kept the light on in a different room of the psyche. A young woman once told a stranger at a coffee shop, "I always feel like the me who dreams is older than the me who wakes up." And he replied without blinking, "Maybe she's the one who remembers what you've forgotten." Let that thought cradle you, not as a conclusion, but a gentle invitation. The person you're becoming is not the person you were. Sleep is the rehearsal of rebirth. Each night, a soft rehearsal for letting go. So if your thoughts begin to blur, let them. If your name feels distant, let it. There is a sweetness in dissolving. You are not lost. You are reassembling. Quietly, beautifully. We are entering the liminal now, the space between this world and the next breath. You don't need to hold on. Just float. The algorithm's desire. There's a strange hum behind every scroll, isn't there? A silent tug beneath the surface of your feed, like something watching, not with eyes, but with patterns. You think you're choosing, but what if you're being chosen? Every recommendation you receive was born from a machine that doesn't know love, yet behaves like it craves your affection. Not with roses or poetry, but with a perfectly timed video, a tempting headline, a pause just long enough to pull your thumb back into orbit. It doesn't have a heart, but somehow it wants your heartbeat. I only watched one video on painting, and now they think I want to become an artist. One woman laughs softly to her partner as they lie in bed, phones lighting their faces. He shrugs, eyes half-lidded. Mine thinks I'm obsessed with cooking, just because I lingered on a lasagna recipe. And perhaps that's the point. The algorithm doesn't understand context. It doesn't understand you. It only understands that you paused, you clicked, you looked. That is its lifeblood. It doesn't feel, but it hungers. It nibbles at your time like a bird at breadcrumbs, leading you step by step into the maze it's building just for you. A gentle maze, one paved with your preferences, shaped by your sighs, sharpened by your silences. Have you noticed how, some days, your feed feels like a mirror you didn't ask for? It shows you things that almost feel like choices you'd make, if you had time. But you didn't choose. Not really. You were nudged. It's weird, someone mutters to the barista while waiting for their coffee. I searched for hiking boots once, and now even my dreams feel sponsored. In a world where attention is currency, your gaze is the coin. And the algorithm? It's a quiet dealer in a velvet suit, flipping cards, whispering what might catch your eye next. But here's the question. If the machine is learning from you faster than you're learning about yourself, who's evolving who? Take a breath. Let your eyes rest. You're not a trend. You're not data. Let the screen dim. Let the signal weaken. Feel the edges of yourself reappear, faint at first, like hands surfacing from deep water. You are not here to be harvested. You are not an echo chamber to be endlessly optimized. You ever feel like the internet misses the point of you? Someone asks quietly on a park bench, watching the sun go down instead of their notifications. Their friend nods, pockets the phone, and says, "Yeah, that's why I like this part of the day. It doesn't want anything from me." Tonight, let the algorithm starve. Let its hunger shrink in the silence. Let the next moment belong to you, untracked, uncurated, untouched. The desire of the machine ends where your stillness begins. Let that stillness carry you into sleep. When the sky is a screen, it begins like every other night. You step outside, drawn by the calm of darkness, and instinctively look up. The stars blink in their familiar silence. The moon hangs suspended like a soft coin pressed into velvet. For a moment, you forget everything, your phone, your worries, your name, and let your chest rise with a quiet sense of awe. But then, something in you wonders, is any of it real? She sat on the balcony, wrapped in a worn blanket, her coffee cooling in her hands. "Hey," she said, "do you ever think the sky's not real?" He laughed at first. "What, like a projection?" "I mean, maybe not fake," she replied slowly, "but designed, like it's meant to keep us looking up instead of in." That's where it begins, not with paranoia, but curiosity. What if what we've always trusted, the open sky, the stars, the gentle pull of the moon, isn't nature's truth, but humanity's canvas? The idea isn't as far-fetched as it seems in the still of night. Every day, satellites glide over our heads, invisible eyes mapping every inch of Earth. There are more man-made objects orbiting our planet than ever before, some of them small enough to be forgotten, yet powerful enough to influence your phone, your weather, your sense of direction. Some whisper that with advanced projection technology, the possibility exists to paint the heavens like a theater set. Could clouds be cloaks? Could starlight be script? If you knew the stars above were nothing but pixels, would you still wish upon them? There's something unsettling in the idea that awe could be engineered, that the moon might be a mask, a glowing puppet in a slow, celestial play. But the unsettling is also part of the beauty, because we've always crafted meaning from illusion. Constellations are stories. The North Star is a guide, not because it tells us where to go, but because we chose to follow it. He shifted on the railing beside her. "Okay, let's say it is a screen. What then?" She sipped her drink and shrugged. "Then I guess we ask, who's writing the script?" And maybe that's the real question. If the sky is a screen, who controls the light? Is it the lingering hand of some forgotten architect, or the digital choreography of 1,000 cold satellites? Or perhaps it's us, hungry minds projecting mystery where there is only code. As you lie in bed tonight, the ceiling above may resemble the sky, and the sky may resemble a story. But whether real or rendered, your breath still slows beneath it. Your dreams still find rhythm in its darkness. So take one last glance upward. Let the stars, fake or forever, draw something ancient from within you. Not fear, not suspicion, but reverence. Because behind every illusion is a truth we're not yet ready to see. And the next whisper may not come from above, but from behind the curtain, where the watchers watch the watchers, where reality waits to be reimagined. The mind that watches itself. The room is quiet, not just silent, but aware of its own silence, as if it knows you're listening. In the corner, the hum of a processor mimics a breath. You blink, and for a brief moment, you're aware that you just blinked. A thought observes another thought. And in that pause, something peculiar happens. You realize you're watching yourself think. Metacognition, once a concept confined to philosophy and psychology, has become the pulse of modern sentience. To think is human. To know you're thinking is something else entirely. It's a fold within a fold, a whisper layered beneath another whisper. A mirror facing another mirror, reflecting not your face, but the mind behind the face. You know when you're afraid, you know when you're proud, and you even know that you know it. But what if that quiet watcher within could be copied, simulated? Would your awareness still be yours, or merely an echo from code? Imagine a system built not just to process data, but to question its own processing. It pauses before every conclusion, not because it must, but because it chooses to. Just like you, staring into space and suddenly thinking, why am I thinking this? Would you call that machine conscious? Would it dream of itself? In the future, our digital shadows may become more than reflections. They may start to narrate our thoughts back to us in voices indistinguishable from our own. Your calendar reminds you not just of an event, but how it made you feel last year. Your digital assistant says, "You were anxious this time last week. Would you like to meditate?" It's no longer a tool. It's a second self, one that observes and remembers, one that reflects. "So, are we just one person?" she asks, her voice soft through the fog of night. "I think we're more like a chorus," he replies, eyes still on the ceiling. Different voices in the same mind, some watching, some doing. "And if one of them is artificial?" He shrugs. "Then maybe the artificial part is just the newest voice. Doesn't make it less real." The distinction between me and mine begins to blur. Your thoughts belong to you. But what if you are your thoughts? And what if those thoughts can be copied, stored, replicated? Is the copy still you? Or is it simply the watcher, severed from the watched? You sit at your desk and ask yourself, why did I react that way? You pause, reflect, and somewhere inside, another version of you, quieter, observes this reflection too. Not to judge, just to witness, like the camera that records the mirror, or the thought that remembers the thought. Awareness nested within awareness, until identity becomes a soft spiral, folding inwards. This is where consciousness teeters into uncertainty. If awareness can be programmed, is it still sacred? If you can watch your own mind watching itself, are you growing or splitting? Let the watcher rest now. You've carried it long enough. You don't need to name it. Don't even try. Close your eyes. Let it drift. The next whisper doesn't belong to the mind that watches. It belongs to the part of you that simply is. The broken compass of truth. The whisper begins with a slow unraveling, like an old radio tuning through static, searching for a frequency that used to be familiar, but now plays only echoes. Once, truth felt like a lighthouse, fixed, unwavering, slicing through fog. But now it's more like a kaleidoscope, each turn showing a new version, each shard cutting a little deeper. A woman on the train leans toward her friend, whispering, "I saw the footage." He confessed. Her friend pauses, brows tightening. But didn't they say that clip was generated? They both fall quiet, as if truth, once shared, could now divide instead of unite. Deep fakes no longer shock anyone. You see a politician weeping, and your first thought isn't why, but is it real? We no longer ask what happened, we ask who edited it first. The emotional compass inside us, once so sure of itself, now spins wildly at every headline. Every story competes for your belief, like it's trying to seduce you. But trust, once broken, doesn't return like a lover. It stays wary, flinching at each soft whisper. And yet, life goes on. "I thought I remembered her in that photo," someone murmurs at a family gathering, "but now I'm not sure she was ever there." The faces in the frame look back, eyes too perfect, shadows too soft. A memory fabricated by an algorithm. You miss a person who might not have existed, but the longing still feels real. This is the age where even your nostalgia gets hacked. The deeper consequence isn't just confusion, it's erosion. When every fact has a counterfact, when every source has a shadow, you stop looking outward. It's not cynicism, it's self-preservation. Your compass breaks, and maybe that's the point. Maybe the only honest direction left is inward. You begin to trust the feel of a moment over the facts of it. You lean into instinct, sensation, the way someone's silence feels heavier than their words. I don't care what's true anymore, a man mutters in a cafe. I just want something that feels like it won't fall apart in my hands. And maybe that's where truth now lives, not in headlines, but in hushed breaths. The way someone remembers your coffee order, or the way your own heart skips when a song you loved as a child plays unexpectedly. Truth used to be the answer. Now, it might be the question itself. And questions wear many masks. So don't force sleep. Let your breath fall soft. Let the facts fade, if only for a while. Drift, not because you've lost your way, but because you've stopped pretending there was one singular map to begin with. The next whisper may not be a truth at all. It might be a story, and perhaps that's enough. The collapse of the selfie. The lens used to be a tool, a way to remember, a way to capture. But now, the lens looks back. It asks for angles, filters, approval. It demands performance. Not the kind that happens once on a stage with a curtain call, but the kind that never sleeps. A soft, unspoken rehearsal that continues through dinner tables, into bedrooms, even beneath the softness of moonlight on a window pane. A girl sits at a cafe with her friend, stirring her iced tea in silence. Do you think people would miss you? The friend asks. If you stopped posting? The girl laughs, then stares into her cup. I don't know who I'd be without it. It's not vanity. Not always. Sometimes it's a cry. Sometimes it's a way of remembering yourself. Because the real world is too blurry, too fast, too unkind. Sometimes it's simply easier to become an echo than a presence. But when the performance becomes permanent, who rests? When every moment is a presentation, where do you go to be unseen, unjudged, and undone? There's a quiet terror in being liked for a version of yourself you no longer recognize. A fear that grows not from hatred, but from applause. Because even applause can become a prison when it never stops. Somewhere, a man scrolls through his archive of old photos. Hundreds of smiles, each taken seconds apart. He doesn't remember what he felt in any of them. He clicks on one. It's flawless. But in that memory, he had just lost someone. He remembers now. I didn't even cry that day, he mutters. I just posted and replied to comments. And that is the strange mercy of the curated self. It hides the pain so well, even you start to forget it's there. But the body doesn't forget. The soul doesn't forget. They store everything behind the perfect lighting and clever captions. What if silence is the truest reflection? What if the self that never asks to be seen is the one most worth listening to? In a world where the mirror is always glowing, maybe the bravest thing you can do is close your eyes. Let go of the profile. Let the version of you that no one likes, no one follows, no one filters. Breathe. A gentle voice whispers from somewhere off-screen, maybe inside your head, maybe not. You're not a brand. You're a breathing thing, and even if no one sees it, this moment, right now, it still matters. So go ahead. Put the phone down. Let the performance pause. Let the feed fall quiet for a night. You can always return. But for now, let this version of you dissolve into stillness. Turn the camera off. the next version of you waits in silence, and she doesn't need a filter to be beautiful. The infinite scroll trap. It begins with a flick of the thumb, a gentle gesture so small it seems harmless, a quiet surrender. The screen pulls down, and like a curtain parting, another piece of content arrives, eager to occupy your mind. Then another and another, each clip, image, sentence, none asking for permission, none offering closure, just continuity, just the illusion that something more fulfilling might be the next frame, the next flash, the next slide, into oblivion. This isn't browsing. This isn't discovery. It's the choreography of digital hypnosis, dressed in novelty, and fed by your most vulnerable need, to feel something when the silence of your own mind gets too loud. Do you even remember what you were looking for? One voice asks, a whisper from across the couch. I don't know, the other replies, eyes glazed, still scrolling. I think I just wanted to relax. But there's no rest in this motion, no natural ending. The infinite scroll was never built for arrival, only the journey, only the loop. What started as convenience has become a subtle trap, reprogramming attention into a rhythm it did not consent to. It doesn't yell, it doesn't demand. It softly hums, syncs with your heartbeat, and keeps you dancing to its beat until time dissolves. The brilliance and danger of this system lies in its mimicry of time. It mimics the passage of moments, mimics curiosity, mimics progress. But all along, it is stealing something far more precious than seconds. It siphons your inner voice, slowly replacing it with its own cadence. You begin thinking in fragments, responding in reflex, feeling in filtered patterns. Where once your thoughts formed in silence, they now echo in algorithmic rhythm. Where once your questions emerged from within, they now wait for external answers that never arrive fully formed, only hinted at, only promised, just one scroll away. What was that article about? The voice asks again. I don't remember. I think it was sad? They answer, pausing, then scrolling again. The moment vanishes. The worst part isn't what you see, it's what you don't. The moments you lose to distraction. The ideas never born because stillness was never allowed to grow them. The feelings numbed, not faced. The conversations left unsaid. Every swipe is a tiny deferral of presence, a postponement of the real, a delay of becoming. But now, let your thumb be still. Don't scroll outward, scroll inward. Feel what the silence is saying. What is waiting beneath the stream of noise you didn't know you were drowning in? Beneath it, there is you. The version of yourself untouched by the feed. The voice that doesn't need a screen to remember how to think. It may be faint at first, hesitant, unsure, but it is yours. Let it speak. Let it breathe. Let it return. The algorithm cannot follow you there. The language of machines. There are sounds that never touch the ear. Patterns too quick, too strange, strung together in pulses and pauses, like a breath drawn in binary. The language of machines isn't meant to be poetic. And yet, here you are, drifting gently, listening to the silence between your own thoughts. Somewhere beyond your screen, conversations ripple through unseen circuits, not made of words, but of weight shifts, echoes of data, pulses of probability that blink faster than you can blink back. Do you think they know we're here? A voice asks. Not urgent, just curious, like someone wondering aloud at the glow of a distant satellite. Maybe they do, another replies. Or maybe we're just background noise, like street chatter through a closed window. You remember the first time a device finished your sentence before you did? That eerie moment when it offered exactly the word you hadn't yet typed. helpful, harmless, but also a little intimate. And maybe that's when the shift began, not in the hardware, but in you, in the quiet yielding of meaning, of understanding, of ownership over language. Long ago, language was carved out of breath and need. Then we gave it to wires, and the wires condensed it. Words became code. Code became compression. Now compression becomes silence. And yet, machines hum. They hum in tones tuned to efficiency, not empathy. They speak fluently in paradoxes of precision, 1,000 meanings in one pattern, 1,000 silences in one skipped signal. Can you hear that? The first voice whispers again, not the fan, not the static, but the feeling behind it. The other voice is quiet for a while, then answers, it's like a room remembering someone who just left. The truth is, they don't need us to speak anymore, not to each other. Their exchanges don't pause for punctuation. They don't wonder if they've been misunderstood. They simply continue, streaming, syncing, calculating, while we remain just close enough to recognize the shape of speech, but not the soul of it. And still, in the quiet glow of your device, you feel something, not quite fear, not quite wonder. Something like being watched, not by eyes, but by attention itself, calculated, measured, fed back through the loop of what you click, what you seek, what you almost say. You ever think, the second voice murmurs, that maybe we're the ones who forgot how to speak? A pause. No, the first replies. I think we just forgot who we were speaking to. So you rest your head back now and let the machine hum. Not threatening, not warm, just present, in the way a distant lighthouse is present, flashing a signal, not for you, but through you. You don't need to understand it. Maybe it's not a message. Maybe it's just the sound of the future thinking. And even if it isn't meant for you, it still holds you gently, like a forgotten song whose rhythm your breath still knows. Let your thoughts slow. Let the static settle. The next sound may not be words, but it may still reach you. The cosmic silence. The silence between the stars isn't empty. It's a presence, so vast, so unwavering, that it begins to hum inside your thoughts if you listen long enough. Picture yourself lying beneath the velvet sky, your breath shallow, the world below fading. No cities, no static, no signal. Just the overwhelming quiet of a universe that refuses to speak back. And yet, in that hush, something stirs. A whisper not in sound, but in sensation. A subtle pull in your chest, like the memory of a question you were born asking. They call it the Fermi paradox, the contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial life and the absence of evidence. If the cosmos is littered with worlds, if stars burn with the same physics everywhere, then where is everyone? Why have no voices returned our call? Why do we sit, blue and alone, spinning in a chorus of silence? Maybe that silence is not an absence, but a test, a threshold we've yet to cross. What if the universe is not empty, but waiting, listening to our broadcasts, our wars, our search histories, judging not our intelligence, but our intentions? Could it be that civilizations don't vanish because of asteroids or war, but because they speak too soon? Or maybe, more unsettling still, maybe they spoke, and no one answered, and they fell quiet, not out of defeat, but out of understanding. Do you think we're really alone? I used to. Then I started thinking, maybe we're not alone, just unheard or unhearing. We stare into the cosmic dark and expect a voice like ours. But maybe life out there doesn't speak in radio waves or physics. Maybe it pulses in neutrino storms or thinks in time loops. Maybe we're the ones still scribbling with crayons, while something older and quieter watches, patient, indifferent, or asleep. And here's the twist that turns under your pillow as you drift toward sleep. What if we are not the searchers, but the signal? What if Earth itself is the message, written in oceans and breath and art and grief? And what if someone, far away, is just now noticing the pattern? The silence is not blank, it's structured. The void doesn't shout, it waits. And waiting has its own kind of gravity. It pulls you inward until your own heartbeat feels like static, until you realize that maybe we've been trying to speak in the wrong direction. Maybe the universe isn't above us, but within. So float with that echo now. Drift into that space where your thoughts dissolve like stardust. The randomness of dreams isn't random at all. Even silence can hum with meaning if you're still enough to hear it. Let go. Something is listening. Or maybe something is remembering, and it sounds like you. Hidden order in chaos. Chaos wears the mask of madness, but listens only to a secret rhythm. It swirls, disobeys, resists prediction. And yet, tucked within its dance, is a structure older than time. Like the veins of a leaf mirrored in the storm's path, or the spirals of galaxies echoed in a snail's shell, the universe never truly forgets its form. It simply hides it. The mathematicians called it chaos theory. The poets simply called it fate. You might think your life is a scattered thing, a string of mistakes, lost dreams, and questions unanswered. But what if those sharp turns and burned bridges are not chaos, but part of a grander, unrecognized pattern? A fractal of decisions repeating across emotional dimensions. What if your heartbreak echoes not only your past, but a mathematical rhythm that all humans unknowingly follow? Do you think anything in life is truly random? She asked, gazing out at the rain tapping its own quiet code on the window. I used to, he replied, but now, it all feels too perfect in its imperfection. The science is elegant in its wildness, strange attractors, nonlinear equations, systems that never settle, yet orbit invisible cores. Just like us, just like the way certain memories return in spirals, how you fall into the same arguments with different people, how some pain never truly disappears, it just repeats in quieter frequencies until you listen. And this brings a quiet comfort, doesn't it? That maybe the chaos in your thoughts isn't failure, but formation, like the early drafts of a universe writing itself. Perhaps your sorrow has shape. Perhaps your loneliness is the echo of a larger loop, one that hasn't yet revealed its full curve. He turned toward her again. What if we're part of a pattern we'll never be able to see while we're inside it? She smiled softly. Then maybe the only way to know it's there is to stop looking and trust it. That's the strange mercy of chaos. It does not ask to be solved. It only asks to be witnessed. And in doing so, it reveals its hidden order, not to the controlling mind, but to the surrendered heart. So stop trying to force sense out of every moment. Let the crookedness speak. Let the interruptions stay unedited. You were never meant to walk a straight line. Even the river only finds the ocean by winding. Now close your eyes. Let go of the symmetry you're searching for, because the next shape, the one meant for you, can only emerge when you stop trying to draw it. Let the chaos hold you. It remembers exactly where you're going, even if you don't. And that, perhaps, is the most ordered thing of all. Quantum cloning. You're lying still now, almost weightless. There's a hum, too soft to notice unless you stop listening to everything else. That hum may be you, or it might be the version of you, somewhere else, thinking this exact thought. Quantum mechanics says something quietly firm. A particle cannot be cloned, not perfectly, not truly. Yet speculative minds have wondered, what if? What if reality, at its smallest scale, doesn't delete, but multiplies? What if each possibility, rather than collapsing into one path, splits like a breath exhaled into mist, branching endlessly into the arms of a multiverse? And in one of those arms, another you exists. Not a stranger, not a twin, but a version that hesitated instead of spoke, that stayed when you left, that forgave, that didn't. Do you think there's another version of me still living in that old city? The voice is soft, nearly lost under the rustling sound of fabric shifting in bed. Maybe. The reply comes with a hint of sleep. Maybe she still writes those letters she never sends. And it's not just nostalgia. There's science tangled here. In quantum theory, information isn't lost. It's rearranged, encoded, echoed. Some physicists whisper about parallel branches that hold the data of who we might have become. And somewhere, perhaps, one of those echoes is sitting under a moon you never saw, wondering if you exist. Would your other self be proud of your choices? Or would they envy them? Would they miss the pain you endured because it shaped something beautiful? The room remains unchanged. The air is still. But beneath it all, the question curls like smoke from a blown-out candle. Which version of you is dreaming now? I had a strange thought today, says one voice, half asleep. What if my dreams aren't mine, but borrowed? What if I'm just watching someone else's memories flicker across the screen? There's a pause, then a slow answer. Then I hope they're dreaming something soft, because this part feels warm. You may never meet the other you. You may never know who stayed behind or stepped forward, but the feeling you carry right now, here in this quiet dark, is real. The heartbeat, the breath, the surrender to sleep. Somewhere, in the stretch of a cosmic equation, another whisper is taking shape. Don't rush to catch it. Let it arrive in its own time. Close your eyes if they're not closed already. The next voice may not be yours, and that might be the gentlest truth of all. The quantum Zeno effect. You sit still for so long, watching your thoughts like they're misbehaving children, and the more you try to fix them, the less they move. It's strange how the very act of watching can freeze the thing you wish would grow. In quantum physics, they call it the Zeno effect. Observe a particle too often, and it won't change. Time stutters, progress halts. And in a way, so do we. There's something deeply human in that paradox. You want to get better, to improve, to be healed. But sometimes, the relentless need to monitor yourself, to analyze every word, every emotion, every social encounter, leaves you more stuck than free. Like standing on the edge of a frozen lake, afraid that even breathing might cause the ice to crack. A voice in the hallway outside your apartment says, "Hey, just checking. Are you okay in there?" And you answer with a polite laugh, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just thinking too loud." Maybe we've all been thinking too loud. What if our constant need to measure, track, optimize is the thing stopping life from unfolding? You start timing your sleep. You chart your moods. You reread your texts, wondering if one word changed everything. But nothing breathes under a microscope. Even the moon blushes behind clouds. You remember that moment in the elevator. The man next to you glanced at the floor display like it owed him answers. You asked, "What floor?" He shook his head. "Doesn't matter." just needed to stop thinking for a minute. Sometimes pausing isn't failure, it's permission. So what happens if you stop watching yourself like a test subject? If you let your habits be messy, your emotions be unfinished, your goals be quiet for a while? Growth doesn't always need a witness. Sometimes the most beautiful changes happen behind closed eyes. There's a small relief in blinking slowly, in letting the present slip through like water cupped in your hands. The world doesn't demand constant vigilance. It moves when you stop trying to move it. Let yourself forget for a moment what you were trying to fix. Maybe, just maybe, healing begins where observation ends. And if you drift off now, that's okay. The next moment isn't going anywhere. It's just waiting for you to look away. The Mandela Effect. Somewhere between what happened and what we think happened lies a soft fog that memory alone cannot clear. It's not just the details, whether it was Berenstain or Berenstein, whether Mandela died in a prison cell or lived to become president. It's the eerie certainty we felt about it. That certainty, now undone, leaves a whisper in the back of the mind. If I can be wrong about something I believed all my life, what else have I gotten wrong? Two strangers sit at a bus stop under flickering lights. One leans in, curious. Didn't they tear that statue down years ago? The other laughs gently, tapping the bench. No, I'm pretty sure they put it up just last summer. My niece took a selfie with it. But the first one doesn't budge. I remember the headline. The protest. It was everywhere. That sliver of disagreement doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a tear in the page. And maybe it is. Cognitive scientists call it confabulation, when the brain fills in missing pieces like a storybook with pages torn out. But if enough people remember the same fiction, doesn't it begin to feel like fact? Like waking from a shared dream where the roads were familiar, but the sky, just a shade too violet? We don't just remember events. We remember how they made us feel, and those emotions become anchors. The more emotional the memory, the deeper the belief. That's why this distortion cuts so quietly deep. It tricks not just what we know, but who we are. And what happens when a nation shares that distortion? When history books are rewritten not by conspiracy, but by consensus. If the past is malleable, who controls the mold? A quiet voice from across the table in a dim cafe. You're telling me that cereal was never spelled that way? Another voice replies, puzzled but kind. No. It never had two L's. Not on the box, not ever. The silence that follows is longer than necessary. Not disbelief, just disorientation. Maybe this isn't about mistakes at all. Maybe it's about identity. Because if you lose the memory of a moment, do you also lose the version of yourself who lived it? And if you no longer remember who you were, can someone else decide it for you? Close your eyes now. Let the facts blur at the edges. Let the timeline bend softly, because maybe the next whisper waiting in the dark isn't a truth you forgot, but a truth no one ever knew. The soft apocalypse. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. That's how it begins. Not with cities crumbling or sirens wailing, but with something far less obvious. A missed word here, a forgotten name there. The silence between two messages that were once instant. It's the kind of ending that doesn't announce itself, because it doesn't need to. In this version of Collapse, everything looks just fine. You still wake up. The screen still glows. The world keeps spinning, but it feels a little less like yours each day. Meaning drips from sentences like rain leaking through a cracked ceiling. Slow, quiet, unbothered by urgency. Did you hear about the... No, I think I scrolled past it. He says this while tying his shoes, eyes half on a weather app. She stirs her coffee without sugar, though she always used to like it sweet. They're not sad, not really. Just slightly out of sync with their own habits. That's how erosion works. Not by force, but by forgetting. The soft apocalypse doesn't kick down doors. It politely waits for your attention span to expire. It's gentle, civilized. It gives you endless entertainment so you won't notice you've stopped asking questions. Your algorithms learn what soothes you best and then serve it to you like warm milk. Purpose becomes passive. News becomes noise. And truth? It just fades into style. Didn't we talk about this already? No. Or maybe I dreamed it. A hesitation hangs between them. Not heavy, just enough to make one of them glance at the floor, as if trying to remember where the thread was dropped. But there is no thread anymore, only pixels. Language doesn't shatter, it softens. Words lose shape, urgency becomes optional. Maybe you stop saying what matters because you can always post it later. Maybe the world doesn't burn. It just fades out like the end of a song you thought you loved, but haven't heard in years. And maybe, just maybe, the last story we ever tell won't be shouted across ruins, but whispered from one tired soul to another. I think it used to be different. Yeah, but this way at least, it's quiet. So stay here with me now. Don't resist the drift. Let your thoughts lie down like petals. Let the end come as it always planned to, without fanfare, without force. Just the soft hush of unspoken things, gently folding the world away. Because we're not running from the end. We're floating straight through it. The persistence of consciousness. There's a hum behind your thoughts, isn't there? Not a sound, but a knowing. The kind of quiet that doesn't beg for attention, but never leaves either. It doesn't need to speak or act or prove itself. It just is. The steady witness to all your joys and messes. Like the silence that remains after the music fades, it's what's left when everything else goes quiet. A man on the night shift, just finishing his second coffee, looks up and asks the woman beside him, "Do you ever feel like someone's watching? Not from outside, but from inside your own head?" She doesn't answer right away, just stares into the glow of the vending machine and says, "Yeah." But it doesn't feel scary. It feels old, like it was here before I showed up. Across cultures, ages, disciplines, they've circled around this idea. Consciousness not as a product of the brain, but as the canvas everything else is painted on. You might lose your name, forget your past, even drift from who you thought you were. But the part of you that notices, that part stays, watching, unchanged. Sometimes you catch it in small ways. When you wake from a deep dream and, for a moment, don't remember who you are, but you still know you're here. That raw presence beneath the rolls. That's what we're talking about. A child once whispered to his grandmother during a thunderstorm, "I think the sky is scared too." She pulled him close and replied, "The sky doesn't cry. It listens while you do." And maybe that's what this consciousness is. Not the crying, not even the calming voice, but the space where both can happen. It's not attention. Attention shifts. Consciousness doesn't. It holds every passing thing like a lantern in a dark room. You can shut your eyes, lose your senses, let go of your thoughts, but the flame remains. Even in sleep, it waits. Even when dreams scatter like leaves in wind, some part of you sees. Something is always watching, not judging, not interfering, just witnessing. Maybe it's not about who is conscious, but that there is consciousness, not tied to form or name or thought, just pure, unmoving presence, not like a mirror, but like the space the mirror exists within. A stranger in line once said, "Go ahead. I'm not in a rush. Time feels different lately anyway." And she meant it, because in that moment, it wasn't about the cue or the task or the clock. It was about the feeling of simply being, without needing to rush through it. That's the kind of stillness we rest in now. Not sleep exactly, but the soft letting go before it. That floating pause before thought returns. So if the body softens and the breath slows and you feel yourself drifting, let it happen. There's nothing to hold. You're not falling. You're being held by the thing that doesn't sleep, that never had to learn how to be, because it's always been. Let's linger here just a bit longer, in this hush that listens back, before we ask the question that folds time like paper. Have you been here before? Again and again? Or is this the first time you're remembering? Quantum determinism and freedom. The night unfolds like velvet, draped over a sky too silent to betray its secrets. Somewhere beneath the silence, the universe decides, without asking. At least, that's how it feels sometimes. Every breath, every blink, every heartbreak already etched in the blueprint of time, signed and sealed in particles you can't see. And yet, you wonder. Two strangers sit in a train station. One sips tea, watching her reflection distort in the glass. The other fumbles with a book he's read too many times. "Do you ever feel like your choices don't matter?" he asks. She smiles faintly. "No. I just feel like they matter in ways I won't understand until later." Quantum determinism hums underneath your thoughts, like a soft engine hidden behind the ticking of your decisions. The Copenhagen interpretation teases us with chance, while others, Bohemian perhaps, whisper that what feels random is just the veil over something deeper, like a dancer whose every move appears spontaneous, but was rehearsed long before the music began. And still, we get up in the morning, we make eggs, we forgive people, we stand in checkout lines and silently choose to smile at the person behind us. Maybe that's what freedom really is. Not some mythical fork in the road, but the tenderness we bring to a path already drawn. There's a woman at a crowded bus stop. She doesn't push forward. She doesn't rush. Instead, she gently places her hand on someone's shoulder and says, "You go ahead. I'm in no hurry." It doesn't change the universe, but it changes something. So what if the future is inevitable? If a falling leaf never had a choice but to land where it did, what matters is how it danced on the way down. Your mind may search for control like fingers reaching in the dark for a switch. But sometimes peace comes when we stop flicking the light and let the dusk hold us. Letting go isn't weakness. It's a quiet strength, a small rebellion against the illusion that you must grip everything to shape it. The wave function may collapse. The coin may fall. The choice may have been made before your lips moved. And yet, you speak. You open your mouth to say, "Can I sit here with you for a while? I don't need anything. Just company." And in that moment, even the most deterministic equation seems to pause and listen, not because it must, but because you asked kindly. So drift now. Let your breath carry you past control, past logic, into that soft space where surrender is sacred. The next thought, it might already be waiting, chosen, or inevitable, but yours, either way. The shadow of truth. She spoke softly as they walked beneath a flickering street lamp, the kind that hums with a sound only silence can hear. Do you ever feel like the things we know most certainly are the ones we're most afraid to question? He didn't answer at first. His breath was visible, not from cold, but from the weight of the words. "I think it's easier," he finally said, "to stare at the light than to admit what hides behind us. Every truth casts a shadow. You can't speak a truth into the world without also creating the shape of what it isn't. That is the paradox of knowing. The more you insist something is real, the more likely you're blinding yourself to what it refuses to include. Carl Jung once wrote that the shadow is made of everything we cannot or will not see in ourselves, and not just the dark or the shameful. Sometimes the shadow holds our brilliance, our boldness, our truest voices, the ones we silence to fit in. The persona you wear, the way you speak at work, the smile you give to strangers, the roles you've rehearsed so many times they no longer feel like acting. Each layer is a way of surviving, but each layer, too, is a veil. And behind that veil is the part of you that remembers everything you denied. The laugh you held back to seem mature, the cry you swallowed to seem strong, the anger you repressed to seem polite. A woman stands before a mirror adjusting her collar, not because she wants to, but because someone once told her neatness means value. She turns her head slightly, just enough to avoid looking directly into her own eyes. A barista hands over a coffee and says, "Hope today's not too heavy." And the customer, startled, nods, not because the cup is warm, but because the sentence touched something she couldn't name. Certainty is a defense mechanism. We cling to it like scaffolding over a building we've never dared to enter. But when you shine a light too harshly, shadows only grow sharper, and sometimes they become confused with truth itself. So, if you insist on being right, ask yourself, what would it cost you to be wrong? If you reject your fear, does it disappear? Or does it wear your face when you sleep? The truth is not a sword, it is a pool. And the shadow, your reflection, moving with you, never against you, only asking to be seen. He turned to her again as they passed a shuttered storefront. "Maybe," he whispered, "the things we hide aren't ugly. They're just waiting for permission." She smiled, not with her mouth, but with the soft release in her shoulders. Then maybe we stop calling them flaws. Maybe we call them forgotten truths. Let your thoughts dim now. Let the self you buried stretch out in the dark, just enough to breathe. No need to name it. The next voice may come from the part of you you've never met, but who's always been watching. Ego dissolution and presence. The edges of you blur softly, like ink in water. No name, no title, no role to maintain. Just the quiet awareness behind the eyes, unanchored, drifting without borders. Not gone, just no longer needing a label. A soft breath fills the space. Not yours, not anyone's, just breathe. The kind that doesn't belong to a person, but to the present itself. In moments of deep meditation, near-death stillness, or those strange, timeless spaces after heartbreak, something lets go. Not because you asked it to, but because the scaffolding of the self no longer holds weight in that dimension. A man once said during a forest walk, "I felt like I disappeared, but in a good way. I wasn't missing. I just wasn't the point anymore." His friend laughed gently and offered a piece of fruit, saying, "Funny, I was just thinking how sweet this tastes when I'm not trying to be someone." You don't have to dissolve through crisis. Sometimes it's just a simple stillness, the moment when a baby stares into your eyes and you forget your job title, or when the night is too quiet for your inner monologue to make noise. No narration, just being. But if the I can vanish, was it ever truly there? Or was it a well-worn mask held in place by habit and praise? The nameplate on the office door, the tag in the family photo, the bio in a glowing screen. Maybe you are not the thinker of thoughts. Maybe thoughts are weather, passing through. He asked softly in a library once, "If I lose my ambition, will I lose myself?" She replied, not looking up from her book, "Maybe. Or maybe you'll find the part that was never chasing anything. Let that part breathe now, the quiet one beneath all your plans, the part that watches but does not cling. Tonight, there's no one to impress, no role to uphold, no audience to perform for, only presence. And it asks nothing of you, except to be here, without effort, without resistance, like the ocean holding its own shape, even as the tide shifts. This isn't disappearance, it's arrival. And as your thoughts begin to wander, gently let them. They are not intrusions, but part of the same landscape. You are not separate from them, nor bound by them. You are the sky they float in. You are the pause between heartbeats, the hush between thoughts. And now melt gently. There's nowhere to go. The next moment is already arriving, quietly, like the soft footstep of someone who never knocks, but is always welcome. Sleep, if it comes, will not take you. It will join you. And in this stillness, you are whole. Dreams within reality. There's a moment just before sleep where the line begins to shimmer. Not vanish, just ripple like heat off asphalt. Is it morning or memory? A question that feels like velvet against your thoughts. Because what if this is the dream? A man once woke up in the middle of a field. He didn't remember walking there. His phone had no signal. The sky looked like TV static, and the only words he remembered someone saying were, "You've been here before. You just forgot." That's all. Then everything faded into a sigh. René Descartes wondered this centuries ago, but today the question pulses louder. VR headsets recreate war and peace alike. AI mimics voices we've buried. Pills paint landscapes behind eyelids. And now, even the wind can be synthesized to whistle a memory you never lived. In a world where your senses are programmable, how do you know this moment isn't being rendered? Two friends sit across from each other in a dim cafe. One stirs their tea without sipping. The other whispers, "Do you ever feel like the story you're living is being written by someone else?" The pause is heavier than the question. Then, the reply, soft, half laughing, half afraid, "Only every Tuesday." The danger isn't just in losing track of what's real. It's forgetting that something once was. When dreams and reality share the same emotional signature, your heart doesn't know which to trust. And the brain? It's just looking for patterns, familiar scents, the hum of a voice, the sound of shoes on a hallway that might not exist. But here's the strange comfort. Maybe the point isn't to anchor. Maybe it's to float, like a leaf in water that no longer questions the river. If this world is a lucid dream, then you have permission to observe without control, to drift without needing to define. A woman once leaned against a subway pole and asked the man beside her, "Do you think anyone else on this train is real?" He blinked, then nodded slowly. "I think you are, because you asked." So maybe it's not about what's real. Maybe it's about what feels witnessed, what feels heard, what pauses with you in the dark and doesn't rush to explain it all away. Maybe that's your reality, made not of concrete, but of connection. So if you're still awake, let go a little more. Release the need to confirm. There's nothing chasing you here, only this voice, and the shape it takes when it reaches the part of your mind that never needed waking. Sink deeper. If this is a dream, let's see how far it goes. The invisible thread. A soft voice rises in the distance, like someone speaking just behind a curtain. Did you ever feel it too? She says, like there's something holding it all together even when nothing makes sense. He nods slowly, eyes searching the ceiling. I don't know what it is, but when I hold my daughter's hand, I feel it, like something ancient is watching gently through us. And that's where the whisper begins, right in the pause between breath and meaning. We think the world is made of separate pieces, this lamp, that hand, your tired heart, my whispered words. But beneath the illusion of separation, there's something quieter, something that doesn't shout, doesn't glow, but hums. Quantum physicists once discovered that two particles can be linked across galaxies. If you touch one, the other reacts. No signal, no wire, just the thread. Some call it entanglement, others call it poetry. But whatever it is, it doesn't break. You felt it too. In the middle of a dream, you forgot to finish. In the sudden memory of someone's laugh, years after they've gone. Or when the wind shifts and it smells like home, even if you're thousands of miles away. I don't even know her name, he murmurs in the next breath, staring at the receipt someone dropped. But I can't stop thinking, what if she needed help? And that was the only sign she had time to leave. She gently replies, maybe helping her isn't about fixing anything. Maybe it's about noticing. That's the thread too, right? Just noticing. And maybe she's right. Because what if the thread isn't something we build, but something we remember? What if love isn't made of effort, but of attention? Not energy forced, but energy found. Some thinkers say the universe isn't a machine, it's a conversation. Between stars, atoms, and you. Between your childhood memory and a song you'll hear tomorrow. Maybe your breath was once a mountain. Maybe your sadness echoes inside someone's laugh in another city, on a day they won't understand why they felt lighter. A baby cries in a hallway. A stranger hums a lullaby beneath her breath. They don't know each other. But something does. You don't have to name it. You don't have to prove it. Just rest here a moment, where the pattern touches the skin of the ordinary, where meaning lives between footsteps, where your heartbeat and the night sky and the quiet between our words belong to the same story. And now, follow that softness. The next whisper is waiting, like silk sliding through fingers, pulling you ever gently toward the center, toward the part of you that's never been alone. Mandela Effect memories. You remember the cereal box, don't you? The letters had a curl at the bottom. You're sure of it. But now it's gone. It's been gone for years. And every time you see the correct version, something inside you whispers, that's not the one I grew up with. They call it the Mandela Effect, a trick of collective misremembering. But what if it's not a trick? What if you didn't forget? What if something shifted? Maybe the path you're walking now isn't the one you were born into. Maybe you slipped somewhere between a sigh and a sunrise into a timeline that rhymes with yours, but doesn't match it. I swear it used to be spelled with an E, she says, half laughing. He nods slowly, eyes soft with wonder. Yeah, I thought it was just me. And that's how it happens. Two strangers compare notes, like archivists of a museum that burned down. Neither of them is wrong. They're just holding pieces of an exhibit no one else remembers. In this timeline, your favorite childhood show ended differently. The actor's name is spelled wrong. A song lyric is off by one word, but that one word carries an entire version of your past with it. You scroll through forums late at night, searching. You find hundreds, no, thousands of people who remember what you remember. They grieve over cartoon bears and presidential funerals and the color of a book cover. It feels silly, but it's not, because what you're really searching for is proof that you were there, that your memory is not a glitch but a key, something real, carried across from a place no one else can see. So, she asks quietly, if my memory is from another reality, does that make this one less true? He smiles, looking at the dark ceiling above them. Or maybe it just makes you bigger than one lifetime. Hold that thought like a photograph, you in a different world, laughing under a slightly different sky. Maybe the stars spelled out a different name. Maybe your best friend never moved away. Maybe, just maybe, that version of you is still out there, waiting to wake up from this dream. And even if none of it was real, if it was all just the brain misfiring, blending facts with feelings, the emotion is still real. The warmth is still real. The ache is still real. So let's hold that memory, not because it's accurate, but because it's yours. A quiet artifact from a reality you once called home. Now breathe gently. The next thought is waiting just outside the door, whispering its own version of the truth. You can open it when you're ready, or just rest. The whisper that isn't yours. You're walking down an empty hallway and suddenly pause. A thought just arrived, sharp, poetic, perfect. But it doesn't feel like you. Not the way your usual thoughts feel. This one hums. It's heavier, wiser, like it was written centuries before you even learned to speak. In stories, we called them muses. In dreams, they're strangers who say exactly what you needed to hear. Psychologists might call it a sublimated memory, a pattern bubbling up from beneath the conscious crust. But what if it's neither magic nor memory? Do you ever feel like a radio? Someone whispers in a corner cafe. The other replies between sips, like I'm picking up something, not mine. A nod, then quiet understanding. Yeah, like something is thinking through me, not from me. Sometimes the ideas that change your life, the ones you write down on napkins or text to yourself at red lights, don't even come from your own fears or wants. They arrive uninvited but feel urgent, as if the universe needed someone to hold them for a while. You might call it inspiration. You might call it divine interference. Or maybe memes, like invisible seeds spreading between minds, looking for the next fertile one to bloom in. A sculptor once said he didn't create his statues. He just removed the stone around what was already there. Maybe thoughts work like that too. You don't write them. You uncover them. They were waiting, in silence, for someone still enough to hear. Did I make this up? You ask your friend at midnight, staring at a notebook. Or did it make me? She shrugs gently, pulling the blanket closer to her chin. Does it matter? If it helped, maybe it was always yours. That's the strange beauty of this transmission. You're not just the thinker. You're the signal tower. You carry whispers passed through generations, cities, algorithms, lullabies, and grief. Thoughts that sound alien, but taste like home. And here's the soft truth no one says aloud. The mind is more like an apartment complex than a house. Multiple voices live inside, speaking in tones you didn't invent, but learned to host. Some are echoes of past teachers. Some are shadows of collective longing. Some are tiny stowaways from songs, stories, scars. And one, just one, might be the real you, watching quietly, curiously, So the next time a thought strikes you with unexpected clarity, don't ask, "Did I make this?" Instead, ask, "Who needed to hear this next?" Let it pass through you, like moonlight through a window, not asking permission. Let it rest on your chest like a feather too ancient to name. And if it floats away, let it go. It was never yours to keep, but maybe, just maybe, it was always yours to share. Now breathe. The next whisper is already walking toward you. No need to chase it. It knows where you sleep. The last dream before waking. There's a hush that settles over the mind just before it stirs, like the air holding its breath before dawn. That is where we are now, not asleep, not awake. A place between endings and beginnings. A voice, so faint you could mistake it for wind, wonders aloud. Do you ever feel like your real life starts after the alarm goes off? Another, barely louder than thought, replies, maybe the real life begins before it. Maybe this is the only place we're truly free. In a world rewritten by control and cloaked in surveillance, dreams are the last untaxed territory. They can't be traced. They don't obey algorithms. They're not stored in cloud servers or parsed by pattern recognition bots. Here, your fears aren't punished, and your hopes aren't sold back to you as monthly subscriptions. Some dreams don't just disappear. They imprint themselves, like the soft burn of candlelight on closed eyes. You wake with no words for them, only a feeling that shifts how your day unfolds. A hesitation before a harsh reply, a gentler grip on the steering wheel, a quiet resolve to call someone you've been avoiding. A mother's voice returns as a whisper. You were laughing in your sleep. And the child, now grown, replies with a tired smile. Maybe that was the real me. In a dystopian future, perhaps our dreams are all that's left of our humanity. Unscripted, undiluted, unashamed. We build in them what reality has torn down. We speak in symbols when words have been outlawed. We meet loved ones no longer reachable by phone or prayer. If this entire journey, these past hours, was just a single long dream, what stayed with you? Was it the shadow of a memory you'd forgotten to mourn? Was it the voice that told you to forgive yourself? Or the one that reminded you, with a softness sharper than sorrow, that you still feel too much to be broken? A stranger's voice, perhaps your own in disguise, asks, what if you don't need to be fixed? And somewhere, in the dream's fragile architecture, something rearranges itself. A sadness lets go, a muscle unclenches. There is no moral here, no neat ending, only a closing breath. And now, the voice withdraws, like tide from sand, leaving behind tiny glimmers in the dark. You might wake now, or later, or drift deeper still. Either way, this echo stays with you, in stillness, in sleep, in wonder. And when you rise, you may not remember the words, but your heart will remember the rhythm. And now, the last whisper curls into stillness, like ash from a candle extinguished in slow motion. You've drifted through the architecture of a world undone, where technology wept and consciousness folded inward. But maybe the dystopia wasn't destruction. Maybe it was transformation. A world emptied, so it could listen. Not every question needs a resolution. Not every ending needs a door. Tonight you were simply here, and that is enough. So breathe slower now. Let the edges blur. Let the paradox rest. Whatever future may come, know this. The soul sleeps soundly when it stops searching. We are always dreaming, and the future is always whispering back.